Chapter 687. Since Hao Qian could return on his own, why did the Heavenly Tao ask the Grand Pure One to help him? The reason was none other than to let Hao Qian owe him a favor so that he could understand the karma of destroying the Heavenly Court. Today's matter, Hao Qian really thanks eldest senior brother. Hao Qian could be said to be gritting his teeth and squeezing out these words of gratitude from the gaps between his teeth. The dissatisfaction in his words was almost undisguised. If possible, he really did not want to thank him. On the contrary, he even wanted to use his fist to make intimate contact with the Grand Pure One's smiling face. It was too much of a scam. No matter who it was, they would be happy to owe someone a huge favor for no reason. However, it was a pity that not only could Hao Tian not attack the Grand Pure One, but he also had to thank the Grand Pure One for enlightening him. How great of a favor was it to help someone achieve the Tao? It was no less than the favor of rebirth. Therefore, if Hao Qian did not resolve this karma in time, he would probably be controlled by others in the future. The consequences of the Heavenly Emperor being controlled by others were undoubtedly shocking. For this, no matter how unwilling Hao Qian was, in order to resolve the karma of the Grand Pure One, he would choose to ignore the destruction of the Heavenly Court by the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning and the others so that the karma between the two sides would be written off. Compared to the price of being controlled by others, the karma of the destruction of the Heavenly Court was really nothing. If the dignity of the Heavenly Court fell, so be it, as long as it did not affect his attainment of the Tao. Yes, after returning from the tribulation, Hao Qian no longer valued the Heavenly Court as much as before. That was because his realm was even stronger than before. He was truly standing at the peak of the Sage-to-be realm. He was only a step away from the supreme realm of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. It could be said that as long as the opportunity arrived, Hao Qian could take that crucial step at any time. The reason why Hao Qian had made such great progress was completely due to the countless tribulations. Every time he passed a tribulation, everything he experienced would turn into a foundation and settle in his body. After Hao Qian passed all the tribulations, the foundation that had settled in his body would transform into the corresponding strength overnight, so as to push his realm to an unbelievable level. It was also because Hao Qian had returned early. If he had experienced tens of thousands of tribulations, he might have been able to enter the realm of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian as soon as he returned. Of course, that was just talk. Going through a tribulation wasn't easy. If one wasn't careful, one would be completely lost in it and sink into oblivion, never to return. The tribulations that Hao Qian had experienced had already reached the limit of what he could bear. If he continued to experience the tribulations, there might be some unpredictable changes that would occur. If the time was up and the Celestial Emperor was unable to return, that would be a joke. Hao Tian, who was already on the verge of a breakthrough, naturally did not want to get involved with others and affect his breakthrough. In addition, he did not want to be controlled as well. In this way, even if it was for his own cultivation path, as long as it was not too excessive, what could Hao Qian not agree to? Well said, well said. As if he did not notice the dissatisfaction in Hao Qian's tone, the Grand Pure One still smiled when facing his apology. Hao Qian was also a ruthless person. Even if he had suffered such a huge loss, he could still swallow the blood in his mouth. Therefore, he quickly adjusted his emotions and suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart. Phew, eldest senior brother, now that the heavenly courts are broken, the gods have nowhere to go. What do you think we should do? Taking a deep breath, Hao Qian tried his best to ask the Grand Pure One in an extremely calm tone. This is simple. As the saying goes, there can be no construction without destruction. Now that the heavenly courts are broken, it's time to rebuild them. Moreover, you returned when the heavenly courts were broken. Isn't this the will of the heavens letting you rebuild the heavenly courts? The Grand Pure One was indeed shrewd. He could think of any excuse. Even if Hao Qian had expected it, he did not expect the Grand Pure One to say such shameless words. It took him a long time to suppress the shock in his heart. Eldest senior brother is right. However, the heavenly courts are vast. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for Hao Qian to complete it alone. Hao Qian continued after regaining his senses. That was the truth. How could it be so easy to rebuild the heavenly courts? Not to mention the materials, just carving array patterns again was a huge project, not to mention the other things. Therefore, it would be difficult for Haoyan to complete it alone. Moreover, even if he had the ability to complete it alone, he did not know when it would happen. However, the matter of rebuilding the heavenly courts could not be delayed, and that required the help of others. Moreover, the heavenly courts were destroyed by the heavenly lords of primordial beginning. Even if the karma was written off, they could not possibly not pay any price, right? That would be too much of a bully. Don't worry, Imperial Emperor. The heavenly courts are where the face of the primordial world lies. Now that he has ended up in such a state, the poor Wei and the others will naturally not stand by and do nothing. They have to contribute and won't let you do it alone. The Grand Pure One had expected that. The moment Haoyan finished speaking, he said directly, since they were the ones who destroyed the heavenly courts, they should be the ones to rebuild them. Otherwise, it would be too much. It was hard to guarantee that Haoyan would not fall out with him on the spot. There had to be a limit to everything. He could not force others into a corner. That's good. Hearing the Grand Pure One's reply, Haoyan nodded in satisfaction. It was good that he was not the only one who did it. Just like that, the two of them set the rules for rebuilding the heavenly courts. During this period, the two of them did not mention the matter of the heavenly courts being destroyed by the heavenly lord of primordial beginning and the other two, as well as the matter of the Grand Pure One reminding Haoyan, as if it had never happened. That was the tacit understanding between the two of them. If they did not mention it, it meant that the two matters were written off. At that moment, Feng Zichen stood quietly at the side and watched Haoyan and the Grand Pure One discuss without saying a word. Actually, there was nothing much to say. From the moment Haoyan returned, things had completely gotten out of his control. The development of the outcome was no longer up to him. After all, compared to him, Haoyan was the most orthodox master of the heavenly courts. When Haoyan was not around, he naturally meant what he said in the heavenly courts. However, once Haoyan returned, he could not be the master of the heavenly courts. It could be said that after the heavenly Tao interfered, the outcome was destined. Everything was going according to the arrangements of the heavenly Tao. However, there was one thing Feng Zichen did not understand. Why would the heavenly Tao suddenly abandon the principle of fairness and not hesitate to personally help the saint? In Feng Zichen's eyes, this was especially unbelievable. If even the heavenly Tao was biased, how could there be fairness in this world? It was extremely fair and selfless. It could be said to be the foundation of the world. Of course, that did not mean that the heavenly Tao had to follow that principle. After all, the heavenly Tao did not have emotions. It could only rely on instinct. Therefore, once something that broke the rules happened, the heavenly Tao did not care about fairness. It directly took action to correct the chaos and guide everything back to normal. The matter of Diyu was like that. No matter how much merit a heaven-defying person had, the heavenly Tao would not tolerate them. Who asked the heavenly Tao to not have intelligence? He would not care about the gains and losses. However, although the battle between the saint and the heavenly emperor had a bad impact, it was still within the rules. Therefore, the world should not interfere and did not hesitate to abandon its principles to help the saint. This was not right, very not right. Just to suppress the heavenly emperor, it was not worth the heavenly Tao paying such a huge price. After all, the heavenly Tao had broken its principles, but that was only when it threatened the primordial world. But now, for no reason, why did the heavenly Tao suppress the heavenly emperor? It was nonsense to say that the heavenly emperor brought danger to the heavenly Tao. Firstly, the heavenly emperor did not destroy the primordial world. Secondly, he did not exterminate all living beings. On the contrary, he was still helping the heavenly Tao maintain the order of the primordial world. How could such a heavenly emperor make the heavenly Tao feel threatened? Not to mention that the current heavenly emperor could not threaten the heavenly Tao, even if a complete heavenly emperor appeared in the future. As long as he could benefit the primordial world, the heavenly Tao would be willing to submit to him. It could be said that as long as the heavenly emperor was dedicated to the primordial world, the heavenly Tao and the heavenly emperor would never have any conflicts. There was no need for the Heavenly Tao to be afraid of the Heavenly Emperor. But now, the Heavenly Tao had personally helped the saint and helped him suppress the Heavenly Emperor. This was completely unreasonable, and it was strange everywhere. It was this point that made Feng Zichen completely conflicted. He did not understand the actions of the Heavenly Tao. No, that's not right. All of a sudden, Feng Zichen discovered something unusual. Just now, when Gaochen died, why did he feel that it was normal for the Heavenly Tao to target the Heavenly Emperor? This was clearly an extremely unreasonable thing. The Heavenly Tao was fair. How could it easily go against it? Obviously, an extremely powerful existence had interfered with the Heavenly Tao and distorted the understanding of the world. It had twisted a matter that was clearly against common sense into something that they were used to. The person behind the scenes was so powerful that even Feng Zichen had unknowingly fallen for it and had his understanding distorted. If the person behind the scenes had not been too brazen and exposed a flaw, causing him to sense that something was wrong, even Feng Zichen would not have been able to see through this matter and would have been deceived. No, there's something wrong with this. Hongming Daozhong break. Sensing that something was wrong, Feng Zichen did not dare to hesitate. He hurriedly raised the Hongmeng Daozhong and rang it in his heart. Dang, 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 ding. The long sound of the bell rang, as if the great Tao was gently ringing. Endless mysteries erupted, eliminating the dust in Feng Zichen's heart and the strange power that was covering his true spirit. As expected, something's wrong. After regaining his clarity, Feng Zichen carefully thought about everything that had happened today. As expected, he sensed many unreasonable things. Even when he released his divine sense and came into contact with the Heavenly Tao, he faintly felt that something was wrong with the Heavenly Tao. Compared to before, the Heavenly Tao gave Feng Zichen a feeling that it was not so cold anymore. It was as if it had gained some intelligence. Whoosh! At the thought of this, Feng Zichen's body was covered in cold sweat. The Heavenly Tao was the most indifferent. How could it have intelligence? Obviously, there was something wrong with the Heavenly Tao. And in the primordial world, only Tao ancestor Hongjun could cause problems with the Heavenly Tao. As the only infinite prime expert known in the primordial world, and an existence of Tao integration, Tao ancestor Hongjun had the ability to interfere with the Heavenly Tao and even distort everyone's understanding. He had the strength and the conditions. Tao integration, must the Heavenly Tao affect Tao ancestor Hongjun? Why couldn't Tao ancestor Hongjun affect the Heavenly Tao? In the past, Tao ancestor Hongjun might not have the ability to do this, but now it was not necessarily so. He had broken through. From the realm of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, he had broken through to the realm of Wuji Daluo Jingxian. Thinking of Tao ancestor Hongjun's recent situation, Feng Zichen could not help but have a guess in his heart. Perhaps because of the breakthrough, Tao ancestor Hongjun had seized part of the authority from the Heavenly Tao and could affect the Heavenly Tao to a certain extent. Feng Zichen did not know how strong Wuji Daluo Jingxian was, but he was sure that he was definitely much stronger than primordial Daluo Jingxian. Since that was the case, what primordial Daluo Jingxian could not do, Wuji Daluo Jingxian might be able to do. Perhaps that was why the Heavenly Tao behaved so strangely. As for why Feng Zichen had such a guess, that was very simple. Before Tao ancestor Hongjun broke through, everything about the Heavenly Tao would be normal. However, not long after Tao ancestor Hongjun broke through, the Heavenly Tao began to become abnormal. It would be strange if there was no connection between the two of them. From the words of the five-element sacred beasts and the fate of ancestor Hongyun, it could be seen that Tao ancestor Hongjun was not a good person. Therefore, even if he chose to integrate the Tao, it was impossible for him to be willing to be controlled by the Heavenly Tao. Freedom was something that one would only know how precious it was when one lost it. The feeling of being controlled by others was not good either. Saints were controlled by the Heavenly Tao and were thinking of ways to get rid of it, let alone Tao ancestor Hongjun. He must have tried his best to get rid of the control of the Heavenly Tao. He even wanted to counter the Heavenly Tao and become the true master of the Heavenly Tao. Perhaps the purpose of his integration. Other than completing the Heavenly Tao, he also wanted to completely master the Heavenly Tao. This did not mean Tao ancestor Hongjun was bad. Contributing to all living beings did not conflict with him mastering the heavenly Tao. Perhaps, the Tao ancestor felt that only by mastering the heavenly Tao could he better benefit all living beings. In short, the opportunity to master the heavenly Tao was right in front of him. Feng Zichen did not think that Tao ancestor Hongjun would refuse. If he pushed others, Feng Zichen would not refuse. Therefore, he thought that the Tao ancestor would not refuse. There was nothing wrong with that. With this guess, what happened next was much more reasonable. Letting Tao ancestor Hongjun replace the heavenly Tao might be better than before. However, it was undeniable that people with feelings were often affected by subjective emotions. It was inevitable that the Tao ancestor would be biased towards his disciple. After all, he was the Tao ancestor's disciple. If the Tao ancestor was not biased towards them, could he be biased towards Feng Zichen? That was also the reason why the heavenly Tao had no feelings. Without feelings, it would not be swayed by emotions. Only then could it be fair and righteous. The heavenly Tao ruled the primordial world. It might have many problems, but just the fact that it was fair and righteous was enough to make people ignore all its shortcomings. For example, in the past, Feng Zichen would complain that the heavenly Tao was unreasonable. However, today, after tasting the unfairness of the heavenly Tao, his first reaction was to miss the cold heavenly Tao of the past. Humans were like that. They would only cherish something when they lost it. Just as Feng Zichen was thinking, the Grand Pure One and Haotian finally reached a consensus and ended the conversation happily. Fellow Taoist, look at this. Walking to Feng Zichen's side, Haotian was so embarrassed that he did not know what to say. He was indeed in the wrong in this matter. For his own selfish interests, he had sacrificed the interests of the entire heavenly court and killed the efforts of great Emperor Ziwei and the others. That made Haotian feel a strong sense of guilt when he faced Feng Zichen. Since you have already made your decision, I have nothing to say. After knowing that the person behind the scenes was Tao ancestor Hongjun, Feng Zichen was a little dispirited. He was not in the mood to blame Haotian. After all, this matter was not something that he could control. It could even be said that Haotian was the biggest victim of this incident. The dignity that belonged to the celestial emperor was completely gone. There was no point in blaming Haotian. Shaking his head at Haotian, Feng Zichen planned to leave. If he continued to stay here, other than being a joke to others, there was no other meaning. However, just as Feng Zichen was about to leave, he could not help but remind Haotian. Fellow Taoist Haotian, I hope you won't regret your decision today. You must know that today's karma will be reaped in the future. Fellow Taoist, you will have to personally taste the bitter fruit that you have created in the future. After saying that, Feng Zichen turned around and left. The impact of the celestial emperor's dignity falling was definitely greater than Haotian had imagined. From today onwards, the world would only know saints and not the celestial emperor. Who knew how many existences that would look down on the heavenly court would be born? Haotian would be in trouble in the future. But what did this have to do with Feng Zichen? He had more important things to do now. Tao ancestor Hongjun could be said to have tricked him in today's matter. How could he let it go? It was just that the other party was powerful and controlled a portion of the heavenly Tao's authority. If he really wanted to fight head-on, he was definitely not a match for Tao ancestor Hongjun. Therefore, he could only use his wits to deal with Tao ancestor Hongjun. Feng Zichen thought about it and finally thought of a way to deal with Tao ancestor Hongjun. He planned to set up another sect. In the primordial world, the other party had the home advantage. He was afraid that he would not be able to contend with the other party in a short period of time. Therefore, Feng Zichen turned his gaze to the 3,000 great worlds and billions of small and medium-sized worlds outside the primordial world. It seemed that the plan to surround the cities in the countryside was going to be restarted. At this time, the world outside the primordial world, in Feng Zichen's eyes, was a treasure land that had yet to be excavated. There were countless riches inside, waiting for him to excavate them. For the time being, Tao ancestor Hongjun could not interfere with the world outside the primordial world. And this was Feng Zichen's opportunity. From this moment on, he made up his mind to make good use of these undeveloped worlds to quickly accumulate his strength and obtain the capital to contend against Tao ancestor Hongjun. The strength of a world might not be comparable to the primordial world, but countless worlds combined would have the qualifications to contend against the primordial world. Feng Zichen wanted to win with quantity. He was waiting for him to use these worlds to nurture a large number of experts. In that case, so what if the Tao ancestor truly grasped the heavenly Tao? At most, they would fight to the death and perish together. If Feng Zichen remembered correctly, there were still many human geniuses in the great wide world. He could take advantage of this opportunity to see their situation. In addition, he could also take this opportunity to take a good look at what Pangus will had done to those chaos demon gods, causing them to be completely silent. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen could not help but speed up his pace. Soon, he disappeared in front of everyone and returned to the Ziwei Star. He wanted to understand the current situation of the great wide world through the Tree of Worlds so that he could arrange a follow-up plan. The existence of the Tree of World was Feng Zichen's biggest backup plan. If he could not survive in the primordial world, he could go to the great wide world to survive. Chapter 688. After Feng Zichen left, Haotian looked at the South Pole Longevity Emperor. However, the South Pole Longevity Emperor had no desire to chat with him. Before Haotian could say anything, the South Pole Longevity Emperor turned around and left. Even though Haotian was rebuffed by the South Pole Longevity Emperor, he was in the wrong, so he couldn't get angry. He could only smile awkwardly and run to the side to make arrangements for his family. For Haotian's 7 daughters and 1 sister, what happened today was the most bizarre thing in their lives. They didn't even dare to dream about it. In the blink of an eye, they turned from mortals to princesses of the heavenly court. Such a fortuitous encounter was truly bizarre. Therefore, ever since Haotian and Yaoqi's identities changed, the 8 of them had been in a state of confusion. Since Haotian had settled his own matters, he naturally had to comfort them with Yaoqi and explain everything to them. Let's not talk about Haotian. After Feng Zichen returned to Ziwei Star, he immediately activated the Pangu deity to cover up all the secrets of heaven in the boundless starry sky. Then he couldn't wait to divide part of his mind and go to the Tree of World. Outside the Eldritch world. He really hadn't paid attention to it for a long time. In the center of the Eldritch world, where the ruins of Mount Buzhou were, the Tree of Worlds stood there quietly. Its body was so huge that it penetrated the entire world. Let's go. After arriving here, Feng Zichen didn't hesitate at all. He directly rushed along the trunk of the Tree of World to its roots. Then, through the roots of the Tree of World that communicated with countless dimensions, he left the Eldritch world and went to the 3,000 Great Worlds. As the owner of the Tree of World, he was so free. He could go to any world as he wanted, and no one could stop him. Empty, lonely, what entered his eyes was only an impenetrable void. This was the scene that Feng Zichen saw after leaving the Eldritch world through the Tree of World. The entire void existed in a state of nothingness. It could be said that other than him, there was nothing else in this place. It's really empty. So, the 3,000 Great Worlds are hidden here? After carefully sizing up the surroundings for a while, Feng Zichen said with emotion, "In this place." It was the entrance to the 3,000 Great Worlds. As for why it was like this, it had to be said that it was a form of protection from the heavenly Tao to the 3,000 worlds. No one would think that the entrance to the 3,000 Great Worlds was here when they saw the vast and empty landscape. Feng Zichen had the Tree of World. Otherwise, he would not have found this place and would not have thought that there was an entrance to the 3,000 Great Worlds here. In fact, even now, Feng Zichen had been here for a long time, but with his current strength, he still couldn't find the abnormality of this place and the entrance to the 3,000 macro worlds. From this, it could be seen that the protection of the heavenly Tao towards the 3,000 Great Worlds was not weak. After walking around silently for a while, Feng Zichen still didn't find anything. He had no choice but to use the World Tree again. Rumble. Under the control of Feng Zichen, the void that was originally empty suddenly shook violently. Then, the roots of the world tree broke through the air and waved crazily, sprinkling countless mysterious runes. Rumble! A great power emerged. With the roots of the world tree as the center, it spread in all directions and reverberated in the void. Crack, crack. As if unable to withstand this power, the void suddenly began to collapse, turning into countless fragments. Then, with the collapse of the void, it was as if a mysterious veil was slowly lifted in front of Feng Zichen, revealing the real empty scene inside. Stars. Bright stars. Countless stars of various sizes that emitted light of various colors slowly appeared in front of Feng Zichen. No, they weren't stars. They were clusters of light. They were continents that were covered by various colors of light. To be more precise, they should be worlds. The stars that appeared in front of Feng Zichen at this time were worlds of different sizes. 3,000 sectors. And countless small and medium sectors. They really hid it well. Seeing the scene in front of him, Feng Zichen couldn't help but smile. These worlds were finally found by him. Let's go! With a thought, Feng Zichen was about to rush to one of the sectors. Since he was already here, he naturally had to go in and take a look. However, he didn't expect that just as he touched the space-time where the sector was located, a warning sign rose in the unseen world. Oh no! Sensing the danger, Feng Zichen retreated almost without thinking. At the same time, he didn't forget to form a fist print and threw a punch forward. Rumble! A huge palm came from the depths of the sector and collided with Feng Zichen's fist print. There was a boom. The two divine powers were broken at the same time and turned into a terrifying power that swept around. In the void, a huge space-time tide was set off. It was so powerful that even the great wide world could not help but feel like a small boat in a huge wave. It was swept away by the power and was pushed back a little. Chaos Demon God. The familiar aura and the familiar divine powers allowed Feng Zichen to determine the identity of the person who attacked immediately. It was the Chaos Demon God hidden in this sector. As for which Chaos Demon God it was, he didn't know. However, it didn't matter if he didn't know his identity. He just needed to know his current state. Through the fight just now, Feng Zichen could roughly determine that the Chaos Demon God who attacked was obviously not in a good state at this time. He seemed to be injured, and it was an extremely serious injury. Otherwise, if he sensed that a strange and powerful existence wanted to enter his world, the Chaos Demon God wouldn't have just attacked from a distance. Instead, he would have killed the intruder in person. However, Feng Zichen had been defending outside the world for a long time, but the Chaos Demon God didn't appear. Obviously, there was something wrong with the Chaos Demon God. In fact, the Chaos Demon God had fallen into a deep sleep, and even the attack just now was just his instinctive reaction. With this thought in mind, Feng Zichen couldn't help but take a few steps forward to get closer to the sector and observe carefully. The Chaos Demon God is quite vigilant. Feng Zichen didn't notice the problem just now, but now, after taking a closer look, he found a lot of problems. The Chaos Fiend Celestial had used some unknown method to carve countless mysterious runes on the boundary wall of the Great Thousand World. It was these runes that served as an early warning. Once someone wanted to enter this world, the mysterious runes would send out an alarm, effectively preventing outsiders from sneaking in. This is a bit difficult. After hesitating for a long time outside this world, Feng Zichen finally chose to leave. With his strength, if he insisted on entering that sector, those mysterious runes naturally couldn't stop him. However, in this way, he would definitely wake up the Chaos Demon God who was in an unknown state. At this moment, the situation was still unclear, and it was not the time to fall out with the Chaos Demon God. Therefore, he planned to give up this world first and make plans after understanding the situation of the sector. With an idea in his mind, Feng Zichen immediately rushed to the next world. There were plenty of sectors in the void here. If this one didn't work, he could go to the next one. However, at this moment, Feng Zichen, obviously he was thinking too much. Boom! In the next world, he encountered the same situation as before. Then, Feng Zichen, who didn't believe in heresy, tested a few more sectors in succession, and the results were the same as before. Sigh, I don't believe that I can't enter any of the sectors. This was great. Feng Zichen's stubbornness came up. He began to try one world after another. He really didn't believe that he could sneak into all of the greater 1,000 worlds. Just like that, 100 years passed in a hurry. Damn it. The Chaos Demon God really knows how to play. After 100 years, Feng Zichen finally confirmed that he couldn't sneak into any of the sectors. If he wanted to set foot in them, he could only force his way in. On the contrary, he could freely set foot in those small and medium sectors without any restrictions. This meant that he couldn't enter the sectors controlled by the Chaos Demon God at will. Feng Zichen wouldn't believe that the Chaos Demon God wasn't involved in this. Now that things have come to this, I'm afraid there's only one way to enter the sectors. Standing outside the sectors, Feng Zichen's expression was a little silent. If he couldn't sneak in, what else could he do? Force his way in. Force his way in. It was precisely because of this that Feng Zichen was a little silent. If he had known this result, he wouldn't have spent so much effort to try them one by one. Wasn't that a waste of time? Thinking of this, Feng Zichen was a little angry. However, this was just a thought. After the test just now, he wasn't completely without gains. At the very least, he confirmed a few things. First, only the sectors controlled by the Chaos Demon God would restrict his entry. Second, the Chaos Demon God didn't seem to be on good terms with each other. The mysterious runes engraved on the boundary wall were obviously not to guard against Feng Zichen, but to guard against other Chaos Demon Gods. No matter how strong the Chaos Demon God was, it was impossible for him to predict that Feng Zichen would come here at this time. Feng Zichen was still confident about this. After all, he was a man who had once been protected by Pangu. Anyone who divined his heavenly secrets would receive wrong information. Since it wasn't to guard against him, the purpose of the Chaos Demon God's arrangement was naturally to guard against his own kind. No one would complain about having too many worlds in their hands. Since that was the case, it was understandable that the Chaos Demon Gods fought with each other to seize the sectors. From this point of view, the Chaos Demon Gods didn't get along well with each other and often fought with each other. Third, and the most important point, Feng Zichen found that the Chaos Demon Gods didn't seem to be in a good state. They were all seriously injured and in a state of deep sleep. As a result, the Chaos Demon Gods only instinctively blocked him a few times. No one really showed up. This time, Feng Zichen decided to force his way into the sectors. He might have the idea of forcing the Chaos Demon Gods out so that he could confirm their true situation. He suspected that the current situation of the Chaos Demon Gods was probably related to Panga's will. It was Panga's action that caused the Chaos Demon Gods to be seriously injured and in a state of deep sleep. Confirming the state of the Chaos Demon Gods was related to Feng Zichen's future plan. Therefore, he had to give it a try. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen chose a sector that was similar to the Untainted Land and rushed directly into it. For some reason, this sector that was similar to the Untainted Land always gave him a very familiar feeling. It was as if there was something related to him in it. It was this feeling that made him subconsciously choose this sector. Rumble. As Feng Zichen approached that sector, the sleeping Chaos Demon Gods instinctively performed their magic to stop him. Unfortunately, since Feng Zichen wanted to test him, he naturally didn't hold back. Therefore, how could a magic that was instinctively performed stop Feng Zichen from moving forward? Very easily, Feng Zichen shattered the magic of the Chaos Demon Gods and successfully set foot in that sector. In an instant. In that sector, the wind and clouds suddenly changed. The will of the sector suddenly descended, and the Great Way laws emerged together. They turned into countless destructive divine thunders and struck toward Feng Zichen. This was the instinctive reaction of the will of the sector after detecting the intruder. How dare you! Seeing that the destructive divine thunders were about to strike, Feng Zichen's face turned cold and he shouted at the will of the sector. Suddenly, the powerful emperor's aura that belonged to the supreme beings of heaven and earth burst out from his body and oppressed the sector. For a moment, the sector was silent. In front of this strong emperor's aura, the destructive divine thunders that were about to strike could not help but stop in midair. Then, the void distorted, and the will of the sector and the Great Way laws disappeared without a trace. The destructive divine thunders also disintegrated and dissipated. Don't forget that in addition to being the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, Feng Zichen was also the great of Zhongtian Ziwei, the leader of the 4 heavenly emperors of the heavenly court. He was a true supreme being of heaven and earth. With such an identity, Feng Zichen naturally had the authority to command heaven and earth. Although this sector was not the primitive world, it was still the place where the primitive world was born and was under the jurisdiction of the heavenly way. Since this was the case, as the supreme being of heaven and earth, Feng Zichen had the ability to command heaven and earth. He could even command the primordial world, let alone the great wide world. In fact, if this sector had not been contaminated by the aura of the chaos demon gods for a long time and had changed, after Feng Zichen arrived in this sector, not to mention that the will of the sector had personally appeared to welcome him, there were still many Daos clustered around him. The great of Zhongwei was so honorable. How could it be like now, when he had just arrived in this sector? What greeted him was the divine thunder of destruction that covered the sky. This was the result of the will of the sector being contaminated by the chaos demon gods and gradually showing signs of breaking away from the heavenly way. Fortunately, before the chaos demon gods could completely contaminate the will of the sector, they were severely injured by Panga's will and had to fall into a deep sleep. It was because of this that Feng Zichen could make the will of the sector retreat with a shout. Otherwise, when the will of this sector was completely assimilated by the chaos demon gods, he would have to compete with the will of the sector first. Not long after Feng Zichen forced the will of the sector to retreat, in the deepest part of this sector, where the origin was, a majestic will awakened. Who is it? How dare you trespass into my sector? In a trance, a terrifying figure appeared in front of Feng Zichen. His body was so huge that it was even more majestic than this sector. He stood there quietly, giving people the feeling that he could break through the sector. Moreover, there were bright starlight flowing on his body, as if there were bright galaxies hanging on his body. The aura on his body could be said to be vast and boundless, deeper than the boundless starry sky. In fact, Feng Zichen had a feeling that the power of the stars on the chaos demon gods was even purer than his. At this time, Feng Zichen finally understood why this sector gave him an extremely familiar feeling. It was because he knew the chaos demon gods in front of him. They could be said to be old acquaintances. Similarly, since Feng Zichen could mistake the other party obviously recognized him as well. It's you, too, Star Demon God. Great of Zhongwei. Almost at the same time, both parties shouted out the other party's name. That's right, the Chaos Demon God in front of him was Feng Zichen's old acquaintance, the Star Demon God. It could be said that Feng Zichen and the Star Demon God were really fated to meet. After the fall of the Star Demon God, most of the treasures that he turned into fell into Feng Zichen's hands. For example, the primordial spiritual root, the primordial star tree, the primordial treasure, the Zhouxing map, and part of the boundless starry sky. These were all transformed from the origin of the Star Demon God. Even Feng Zichen's early cultivation of the Tao of Stars was inspired by the Star Demon God. According to this, Feng Zichen had been blessed by the Star Demon God all along the way. It could even be said that the Star Demon God had contributed a lot to his success today. Now, they met again outside the untainted land. It had to be said that the fate between the two of them was very deep. The moment he recognized the Star Demon God, Feng Zichen suddenly became excited. Even the haze that was caused when he was schemed against in the untainted land had dissipated by more than half. It was because his opportunity had arrived. The Star Demon God was his opportunity. As a Chaos Demon God that was compatible with his attributes, as long as Feng Zichen refined the Star Demon God, the benefits he would get would definitely be beyond imagination. P.S. It's the end of the month, please vote. Chapter 689. Putting everything else aside, the Heavenly Cycle Star Map was now on the verge of upgrading. If it could devour the Star Demon God's flesh and blood or origin, it would definitely complete the breakthrough quickly and become an upper-grade innate supreme treasure. Or, with the help of the origin of the Chaos Fiend God, Zhouxing Map could surpass the top-grade primordial treasure and become a supreme-grade primordial treasure. In addition to Zhouxing Map, Hongmeng Daozhong's promotion could not be separated from the Chaos Fiend God. If Hongmeng Daozhong wanted to continue its promotion and become a primordial treasure, Feng Zichen needed to collect enough marks of the Great Way for it to devour and refine. But how could the marks of the Great Way be so easy to find? It was hard to find 1 or 2 marks in the whole untainted land. In fact, there wasn't even a single one. Anyway, Feng Zichen had been in the untainted land for so many years, but he had never heard of them. Even if there were, they were in the hands of peerless figures like Ancestor Hongjun. With Feng Zichen's ability, there was a 99% chance that he would not be able to get the marks of the Great Way from them. Therefore, it was impossible to find the marks of the Great Way in the untainted land. However, Hongmeng Daozhong was the foundation of Feng Zichen in the untainted land. If there was a chance, he would never let go of any chance to promote Hongmeng Daozhong. Therefore, after thinking for a long time, he turned his attention to the Chaos Fiend God. As a supreme god born from the will of the Great Way, the Chaos Fiend God definitely had the marks of the Great Way in his body. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of his identity. After finding the marks of the Great Way, the next step would be much simpler. He could directly kill the Chaos Fiend God. Originally, Feng Zichen had a grudge against the Chaos Fiend God. In this way, he would not have any psychological burden when killing the Chaos Fiend God. Moreover, even without the above 2 benefits, the Chaos Fiend God itself was a rare treasure. The impurities in the Chaos Fiend God were rare treasures in the untainted land, not to mention the Chaos Fiend God itself. Its value was absolutely not inferior to a connate cardinal treasure. If this was not considered a fortuitous encounter, then what else could be considered a fortuitous encounter? That was why Feng Zichen was so excited when he saw the Star Demon God. Kill. Even the Star Demon God could not help but be stunned for a moment when he suddenly saw Feng Zichen. However, he immediately reacted and threw a punch at Feng Zichen. The Star Demon God had a deep impression of Feng Zichen. Ever since he escaped from Mount Buzhou, he had suffered several losses at his hands. 2 of his true spirits had already been destroyed by Feng Zichen. As a result, the Star Demon God's plan in the untainted world ended before it even began. In addition, due to the destruction of his true spirit, the Star Demon God's strength was inevitably affected. He had fallen from the top level of the Chaos Fiend God to the first-class level. How could the Star Demon God not hate Feng Zichen after suffering such a great loss at his hands? If he could not see Feng Zichen, then so be it. But now, when he woke up, he suddenly found that the enemy he had been thinking about day and night had appeared in front of him. This feeling was really indescribable. Joy, grief, hatred, maybe all of them. In short, all kinds of emotions flowed in the Star Demon God's heart and finally turned into the most blazing anger. Through the word kill, he vented it completely. Come on. Seeing the punch of the Star Demon God, Feng Zichen's eyes lit up. He directly turned into Pangu's Taoist body and raised his fist to meet the punch. Rumble. The 2 fists collided and the winner was decided immediately. The Star Demon God was no match for Feng Zichen and was sent flying out of the world. At the same time, a terrifying power surged out from the place where the 2 of them fought and swept out in all directions with them as the center. In an instant, the void shattered, the mountains collapsed, and the earth was overturned. Earth, fire, water, and wind surged wildly and intertwined with an endless aura of destruction. This was a sign that the world could not withstand this power and was about to collapse. Just the remaining power was enough to make this world unable to withstand it and show signs of collapse. It was not known whether this world was too weak or Feng Zichen and the others were too strong. Perhaps it was both. Troublesome. The situation in this world naturally could not be hidden from Feng Zichen's perception. He shook his head and waved his hand impatiently. Suddenly, a drop of purple gold blood flew out from his fingertip and fell toward the world. Rumble. As the purple blood fell, a mysterious fluctuation bloomed from his body. It evolved into countless rules and quickly integrated into the world. In the next moment, the collapse of the world was stopped, and the destructive power that was raging everywhere also disappeared without a trace. The rules of the world appeared and were slowly repairing the broken void. The world was slowly returning to its original state. After all, it was because of him that this world was almost destroyed. How could Feng Zichen sit back and watch it go to destruction? Therefore, he had to force out a drop of his blood essence to repair the broken world. At this time, Feng Zichen truly understood the meaning of the sentence, "Destruction is far easier than creation." To destroy the world, he only used his full strength to throw a punch. But to repair the world, he had to force out a drop of blood essence. The gap between them could not be measured with millimeters. F***ck. Noun, a plant. If I can't take down the star demon god today, I'll lose a lot. Cursing secretly, Feng Zichen rushed toward the star demon god who had fallen outside the world. The loss of this drop of blood essence would be counted on him. Boom! With a leap, Feng Zichen arrived in front of the star demon god. Before the star demon god could regain his footing, Feng Zichen punched him and sent him flying again. This place was still too close to the Great Thousand World. If the two of them really fought to the death, the repercussions would definitely destroy the Great Thousand World at such a close distance. Feng Zichen would never allow such a situation to happen. He wanted the star demon god. The Great Thousand World, let's call it the Great Star World for the time being, he also wanted it. Therefore, he had to pull the battlefield far away, so far that it could not affect the Great Star World. Boom, boom, boom. Under Feng Zichen's crazy attacks, the two fought and retreated. Finally, they came to an unknown spacetime that was far away from the Great Star World. Here, Feng Zichen could finally be sure that no matter how the two fought, the destructive power would not affect the Great Star World. In this way, he was relieved. At the same time, this also marked that the final battle had begun. Without any hesitation, Feng Zichen attacked with a killing move. The void shook, and endless Taoist rhymes emerged. In an instant, it condensed into a huge cauldron and pressed down on the star demon god. Supreme Great Magical Power, Great Path Furnace. The furnace shook, and it bloomed with Taoist light, filling the void in all directions. Suddenly, an endless suction force was emitted from the mouth of the cauldron, swallowing the star demon god. Then, at the bottom of the Great Path Furnace, a bright flame rose up. It was the flame of chaos, the most terrifying flame in the world. Rumble! Under the burning of the flame of chaos, the Great Path Furnace trembled violently. The divine patterns on the walls of the furnace seemed to come alive, turning into all kinds of gods, floating around the furnace. They seemed to be blessing it, but also seemed to be chanting mysterious sacrificial texts. For a time, a terrifying refining power emerged from the Great Path Furnace, trying to refine the star demon god. Roar! As if sensing danger, the star demon god struggled with all his might in the Great Path Furnace. All kinds of mysterious supernatural powers poured out of his hands and blasted against the walls of the Great Path Furnace. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under the continuous attacks of the star demon god, the Great Path Furnace gradually could not withstand it. Its body fluctuated in size, and it was on the verge of collapse in the air, faintly showing signs of shattering. Seeing this, Feng Zichen did not dare to hesitate. He immediately mobilized all the power in his body and used another supreme great magical power, the Mount Buzhou seal. Suppress! As soon as he said this, the shadow of a towering divine mountain slowly appeared behind Feng Zichen, pressing down on the Great Path Furnace. Mount Buzhou appeared, and heaven and earth were fixed. Even heaven and earth could be fixed, let alone the star demon god. The shadow of Mount Buzhou fell, and time and space suddenly froze. The star demon god in the Great Path Furnace felt an endless pressure, as if it was going to crush him. At the same time, his movements became slower. Every movement was 1,000 times, 10,000 times more difficult than before. That familiar feeling immediately made the star demon god understand what it was that was suppressing him. Looking at the shadow of the divine mountain in front of him, the star demon god almost squeezed out the words from between his teeth and said one word at a time. The hatred in his tone was enough to make one tremble in fear. Then he exploded. He was so angry that he temporarily broke through his limit and regained the ability to move again. Pangudai, the Chaos Fiend Celestial, who seemed to have gone mad, suddenly pulled out a broken banner and danced wildly in the great path furnace. Swoosh. Although the long banner looked tattered, its power was abnormally great. As the long banner danced, rivers of stars appeared, emitting sparkling starlight and flowing freely in the furnace. Then, the rivers of stars suddenly exploded, and violent power poured out, directly tearing apart the great path furnace and overturning the shadow of Mount Buzhou. The star demon god. He broke free from the suppression in an instant. But at this moment, with a clang, the star demon god stumbled and fell to the ground. He didn't get up for a long time. It was Hongmeng Daozhong that flew over and hit the star demon god's head hard. Feng Zichen had expected that the chaos demon god would break free. After all, he was an extremely powerful existence in the past. How could he be suppressed so easily? Therefore, he had been preparing for this moment a long time ago. He was waiting for the star demon god to break free so that he could use Hongmeng Daozhong to give him a hard time. Hongmeng Daozhong was a treasure that exceeded the level limit. It was extremely mysterious. Even with the strength of the star demon god's body, he would be stunned for a moment and his mind would go blank after being hit by Hongmeng Daozhong. Based on the principle of killing him while he was down, Feng Zichen saw the star demon god fall to the ground. He immediately activated the Zhouxing painting and attacked him. One could see that the Zhouxing painting was distorted in Feng Zichen's hand and finally turned into a divine sword surrounded by starlight. It released a bright sword light and directly cut the star demon god in half. Then, the Zhouxing painting turned into a scroll again and flew out from Feng Zichen's hand. It rolled up the lower half of the star demon god's body and kept it. Suppress. Almost instantly, Feng Zichen cast several supreme magical powers, such as the 5-element seal, the Mount Buzhou Dao seal, the divine steel of martial arts, and other suppressive magical powers, on the Zhouxing painting to prevent the star demon god's body from escaping. Boom! Although Feng Zichen's actions were fast, the star demon god's reaction was faster. That's right. He was cut in half at the waist. No matter how slow his reaction was, it wouldn't make sense. Therefore, before Feng Zichen finished setting up his means, the star demon god had already begun to fight back. Almost at the same time, the two halves of the star demon god's body launched an attack. The upper half of the star demon god's body that was still outside held a tattered long banner and attacked Feng Zichen recklessly, forcing him to fight back with all his strength. On the other side, the lower half of the star demon god's body that was trapped in the Zhouxing painting was also making a ruckus. It crazily attacked the Zhouxing painting, trying to break out of the seal. It didn't take long for Feng Zichen's magical powers on the Zhouxing painting to be broken through by him. While suppressing the Zhouxing painting, he also had to fight against the star demon god. For a moment, Feng Zichen couldn't help but feel a little inferior. Damn it! That magic treasure is so powerful. In a moment of carelessness, Feng Zichen was swept by the long banner in the star demon god's hand and was sent flying. If it weren't for the fact that his clothes were the supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, the heavenly cycle star robe, he would have been seriously injured by the long banner. Even so, although he wasn't injured, he was still in a sorry state. Moreover, the spiritual light on the heavenly cycle star robe was much dimmer. It was obvious that he had suffered serious injuries. This magic treasure must be the star demon god's innate spiritual treasure back then. It's already broken into such a state, but it still has the power close to that of a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. How powerful was it at its peak? It's definitely a supreme grade chaos spiritual treasure, second only to a chaos ultimate treasure. Standing up again, Feng Zichen had various guesses in his mind. Finally, these guesses all turned into desire. Desire for the long banner in the star demon god's hand. If the Zhouxing painting could devour such a powerful ultimate treasure, how powerful would it be? It was definitely a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. Even if it couldn't be compared to the 3 heaven-opening ultimate treasures, Its power was close to the cauldron of heaven and earth. What a treasure! It's such a waste to leave it in the hands of the star demon god. P.S. Begging for monthly votes. I have more monthly votes. One more chapter. I'm kowtowing to you. Clap, clap, clap. Give me some monthly votes. Chapter 690. But it doesn't matter. Soon he will be mine. Staring at the long banner in the star demon god's hand, Feng Zichen said greedily. Then he suddenly raised Hongmeng Daozhong and smashed it at the chaos demon god. However, how could the star demon god, who had been taken advantage of once, be taken advantage of for the second time? From the beginning he had diverted part of his attention to guard against Hongmeng Daozhong. Therefore, when he saw Hongmeng Daozhong coming at him, the star demon god used the banner as a stick and smashed it at Hongmeng Daozhong. Ding! A loud bell rang and reverberated in the void. It stirred up a terrifying sound wave and shattered everything around it. Pumph! After the attack, the star demon god groaned and flew back at a speed faster than when he came. At the same time, Hongmeng Daozhong was also sent flying by the huge impact and smashed into the depths of an unknown spacetime. After being sent flying by the attack, the star demon god quickly readjusted his state and continued to wave the banner at Feng Zichen. However, as he retreated and advanced, Feng Zichen gained enough time. He took advantage of the time when the star demon god was sent flying by Hongmeng Daozhong to draw with his hands. In the blink of an eye, he engraved countless mysterious runes on Zhouxing Tu to help him completely suppress the lower half of the star demon god's body. Even so, Feng Zichen was still worried. After doing all this, he threw Zhouxing Tu to the bottom of the Tree of World. With the combined power of the two, he suppressed the star demon god's body. Only then was he completely relieved. At this moment, the star demon god appeared in front of Feng Zichen as he waved the banner. Without the burden of the Zhouxing diagram, Feng Zichen could completely unleash his full power. With a long roar, he charged towards the star demon god. He didn't use any magic treasures. He fought the star demon god with just his physical body. This was not because Feng Zichen was arrogant, but because he had enough confidence. Even the star demon god was not his match when he was at his peak, let alone when he was in a half-crippled state. Through the fight just now, Feng Zichen could basically confirm that the star devil god was seriously injured before the fight with him. The injuries were so severe that the star demon god had no choice but to enter a deep slumber to heal himself. Affected by this, the star demon god was unable to unleash even 1/100th of his strength. It was precisely because of this that he was so easily cut in half by Feng Zichen. Otherwise, even if Feng Zichen could win against the star demon god at his peak, he would have to pay a high price. In any case, it wouldn't be as simple as it was now. Boom, boom, boom. In an unknown spacetime, Feng Zichen and the star demon god began to fight in a lively manner. To be precise, it was the star demon god who only had the upper half of his body. At the level of the star demon god, rebirth from a drop of blood was already an instinct. Therefore, even if his body was cut in half, he could easily condense a new body. It was just not as strong as the previous one. However, the Ziwei Emperor's aura in Feng Zichen's body was too overbearing. He, who had perfectly inherited the Hongmeng's aura and the Ziwei star's power, had the power to destroy everything. The star demon god's body was cut in half by Feng Zichen's Ziwei Emperor's aura. The remaining Ziwei Emperor's aura was not extinguished. It was still entangled around the star demon god's wound. Not only did it prevent him from recovering his physical body, it was also devouring his strength to continue growing, causing greater damage to him. Just a portion of his strength to suppress the Ziwei Emperor's aura in his wound had already affected the strength of many star demon gods. The long banner in his hand was powerful enough to make up for his shortcomings. That was why he could fight with Feng Zichen so well. Otherwise, he would have been defeated long ago. In fact, if Feng Zichen had chosen to use his Dharma treasure, the star demon god would have been defeated long ago. However, it was not easy to find a suitable opponent to fight. Feng Zichen did not want to end the battle so early. He still wanted to have a hearty battle to verify his true strength. In addition, every move and style of the Chaos Demon God contained the mystery of the Great Tao. Feng Zichen could benefit a lot from fighting with him. As such, how could he stop before he got enough benefits? This battle was different from the battle with the Grand Pure One. Although Feng Zichen did not use any Dharma treasure, he did not hold back and did not hide his strength. In other words, the current Feng Zichen was fighting with the Star Demon God in the state of the fifth heaven of primordial chaos. It could be said that this was the first time he was going all out since he broke through to the primordial chaos. Boom, as the two of them fought, terrifying fluctuations constantly erupted, causing the void to return to the state of nothingness. Time flowed by inadvertently. In the blink of an eye, 300 years had passed. At that moment, Feng Zichen finally squeezed out the last bit of value from the Star Demon God and decided to end the battle. Whoosh! While the Star Demon God was not paying attention, Feng Zichen's heart stirred and he summoned a green lotus. The lotus was surrounded by the aura of creation and had 24 petals. It was the Khanate Merit Cardinal Treasure, the 24th grade green lotus of creation. Before he went to the Great Thousand World, Feng Zichen knew that he would definitely experience several fierce battles and even his life would be in danger. To be safe, before he came, he not only brought the Zhouxing painting and the Hongmeng Daozhong, but also took the Human Path Cardinal Treasure, the 10,000 Spirit Crown from Luai's and the 24th grade Green Lotus of Creation from Xianxia. It could be said that this trip to the Great Thousand World had almost emptied Feng Zichen's family fortune. It was easy to get the 10,000 Spirit Crown from Luai's. However, the 24th grade Green Lotus of Creation had long been used by Xianxia as a treasure to entrust the three thoughts of good and evil. He had divided it into 3 parts and used it to sever corpses. This time, in order to restore the 24th grade Green Lotus of Creation, Xianxia had paid a great price. At the very least, his vitality would be greatly damaged. From this, it could be seen how determined Feng Zichen was to come to the Great Thousand World. Since he had paid such a great price, there was no reason for him to fail. Whoosh! The 24th grade Green Lotus of Creation silently appeared behind the Star Demon God and directly knocked the long banner out of his hand. Then, the Green Lotus trembled and released several rays of holy light of creation, which swept the long banner onto the lotus platform and suppressed it. Green Lotus of Creation? Oh no! Recognizing the treasure in front of him, the Star Demon God was shocked at first. Then, he came back to his senses and hurriedly ran forward to snatch the long banner back. However, Feng Zichen would not give him the chance to do so. The jade crown on his head suddenly released 72 rays of light, which evolved into the 10,000 spirit shadow. They whistled and swooped down toward the Star Demon God. At the same time, Feng Zichen did not forget to form seals with his hands and blasted out all kinds of mysterious divine powers. Together with the 10,000 spirit shadow, they blasted toward the Star Demon God. There was a scream. The Star Demon God was caught off guard and was hit by the 10,000 spirit shadow and Feng Zichen's divine powers. With a bang, the remaining half of the Star Demon God's body from the head down exploded. Without giving the Star Demon God a chance to react, Feng Zichen activated the 10,000 spirit crown again. Several rays of light swept away and suppressed the Star Demon God's body that had exploded. The 10,000 spirit crown had been strengthened by the 3 gods. In addition to the development of the celestial demon Dao and martial arts, it had become a Khanate ultimate treasure. Under Feng Zichen's activation, it was more than enough to suppress the Chaos Demon God's broken body. In this way, the Star Demon God was only left with a head. Victory and defeat were already very clear. Star Demon God, it's time to end this. Hongmeng Daozhong, suppress. With a long laugh, Feng Zichen grabbed the Hongmeng Daozhong and covered the Star Demon God's head. The Star Demon God with only a head left was naturally no match for Feng Zichen. With a clang, he was taken into the Hongmeng Daozhong. Refine! Without any superfluous words, and without giving the Star Demon God a chance to destroy himself, Feng Zichen activated the Hongmeng Daozhong and began to refine his head. There was no doubt that if the star demon god had a mark of the great path in his body, it would be in his head. Because his true spirit was there. Clang 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 clang. The Hongmeng Daozhong trembled violently, and a vast amount of Hongmeng qi emerged from his body, drowning the star demon god's head and refining his power bit by bit. At this time, Feng Zichen also had a serious look on his face. He was doing his best to activate the Hongmeng Daozhong, keeping it in peak condition to prevent the star demon god from escaping. At this point, if the star demon god still managed to escape, all his efforts would be in vain. This state lasted for thousands of years before Feng Zichen completely refined the star demon god's head. Great Emperor of Ziwei, I'll remember you. You've won this time, but you won't be so lucky next time. With the last of his strength, the star demon god's head was completely refined after finishing his threat. It became the purest source of chaos and was absorbed by the Hongmeng Daozhong. Star demon god. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. I don't know what kind of surprise you'll bring me then. After listening to the star demon god's last words, Feng Zichen shook his head and replied with a smile, not caring whether he heard it or not. He was not so naive as to think that he could completely kill the star demon god just like that. That was obviously impossible. If the demon god of chaos was so easy to kill, Pangu wouldn't have let him live until now. At the very least, he would have completely destroyed a portion of him, and not all of him would have survived. Something that even Pangu couldn't do, Feng Zichen naturally couldn't do it. Therefore, the star demon god must still be alive. He just didn't know where he was hiding. Moreover, the star demon god wasn't so stupid as to let the star macro world be his last trump card, especially when the star macro world wasn't safe. After discovering that the great wide world wasn't peaceful, and that the demon gods of chaos would also fight against each other, Feng Zichen understood that his previous belief that the great wide world was the last fortress of the demon gods of chaos was completely wrong. Perhaps the great wide world was the greatest capital for the demon gods of chaos to counterattack the untainted land, but it was definitely not their last trump card. Here, there was a possibility of dying at any time. How could the demon gods of chaos place their last hope here? Therefore, killing the demon gods of chaos here might cause them great losses, but they would never die. Feng Zichen and the star demon god would meet one day sooner or later. Presumably by then, it would be another fierce battle, or a one-sided crushing. Collecting his drifting thoughts, Feng Zichen turned his eyes back to Hongmeng Daozhong. At this time, Hongmeng Daozhong was undergoing a transformation. In the head of the star demon god, in addition to a part of his origin, there was also his immortal chaotic real spirit. The real spirit of the demon god of chaos was a good thing, and it was not an exaggeration to say that it was the carrier of the Great Way. If it was used to refine treasures, it would be easy to refine a chaotic spiritual treasure of a high grade. The mark of the Great Way that Hongmeng Daozhong needed was also in the real spirit of the demon god of chaos. Therefore, after refining the head of the star demon god, Hongmeng Daozhong had a certain degree of improvement. However, if Hongmeng Daozhong wanted to be promoted to a chaotic supreme treasure, it needed at least more than 2,000 marks of the Great Way, close to 3,000 marks of the Great Way. That was to say, after devouring the mark of the Great Way in the body of the star demon god, Hongmeng Daozhong would be promoted to a certain degree, but there would be no essential change. 1 mark was still too little. 100 marks was more like it. However, it's better than nothing. After putting away Hongmeng Daozhong, Feng Zichen comforted himself. It seemed like the primordial chaos Dao Bell's path of advancement was really far away. If not for the fact that Hongmeng Daozhong was too miraculous, he would have given up. However, this was just a thought. He would not put it into practice. Let's not think about Hongmeng Daozhong anymore. Next, it's time to promote the Zhouxing map. Putting the matter of Hongmeng Daozhong aside, Feng Zichen was just about to retrieve the Zhouxing map from the Tree of World. He saw something fall out from the inside of Hongmeng Daozhong. Feng Zichen went forward to take a look and found that the thing that fell out was the skull of the star demon god, as well as his eyes. That's right. Hongmeng Daozhong wanted the true spirit of the star demon god. Things like skulls and eyes were useless to him, so he kept them. However, Although these things were useless to Hongmeng Daozhong, they were useful to Feng Zichen. Were the main materials for refining innate cardinal treasures. The hardness of the skull of the star demon god could be imagined. It was not weaker than an innate cardinal treasure. If he could find a suitable heavenly material and earthly treasure and refine it carefully, he might be able to refine an innate cardinal treasure. No, he could definitely refine it. The moment he saw the skull of the star demon god, Feng Zichen suddenly remembered something. It was this that made him confirm the use of this item. When he was free, he had used the power of Panga's god to sneak into the river of time and space to peek into the future of the primordial world. P.S. Looking for next month's votes, brothers, there's still half an hour left. Now it's the double monthly votes period. I'm still 160 monthly votes away from 2,000 monthly votes, which is 80 chapters. If I can reach 2,000 monthly votes in the next half an hour, then tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I'll definitely be able to reach 10,000 monthly votes a day. If I can't do it, I'll live stream in female clothes. So, please give me some monthly votes. Chapter 691. Therefore, Feng Zichen saw many scenes of the future. Among them, there were many about the boundless starry sky. He saw that among the countless futures, there was a possibility that the boundless starry sky would give birth to a primordial treasure called the Universal Temple. However, this kind of future was very rare among the countless futures of the boundless starry sky. There was only one in tens of millions of futures. This meant that this kind of future was only a possibility among the countless futures, and it was very difficult to realize it. Among these countless futures, Feng Zichen saw more of a supreme-grade primordial spirit treasure called the Universal Temple being born in the boundless starry sky. Using the future to predict the present, Feng Zichen came to a conclusion that the boundless starry sky would definitely give birth to a Dharma treasure called the Universal Temple in the future. And this Dharma treasure would at least be a supreme-grade primordial spirit treasure, and there was even a slight possibility of it becoming a primordial treasure. Although this possibility was very slim. However, that was in the past. Now it was different. The slim chance would become a reality in Feng Zichen's hands. And all of this originated from the skull of the stellar demon god in his hands. The reason why the Universal Temple could not become a primordial treasure was that its origin was insufficient. Feng Zichen simply placed the skull of the stellar demon god in the boundless starry sky and used it as an embryo to nurture the Universal Temple. The skull of the stellar demon god was the main material for refining primordial treasures. In addition to the nurturing of the origin of the boundless starry sky, the Universal Temple that was born from this point would definitely be a primordial treasure. There was no doubt about this. The Universal Temple had the possibility of becoming a primordial treasure, but it was a little slim. What Feng Zichen wanted to do was to use the skull of the stellar demon god to infinitely magnify this possibility until it reached 100%. I've struck gold. Feng Zichen thought happily as he put away the skull of the stellar demon god. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that he had obtained a future primordial treasure was enough for him to recoup his losses, or even make a profit. Not to mention, other than that, he also had other gains. For example, the stellar demon god's eyes. This was also a precious treasure that was hard to come by. The energy it contained was no less than that of an ordinary desolate main star. If they were placed in the boundless starry sky, it would not be long before there would be two more powerful stars in the untainted land. However, in this way, it was obviously a waste. Given the current situation of the primordial world, there was no lack of two powerful stars. Therefore, such a treasure should have been refined into a connate supreme treasure. No, that might not be the case. The star Fian Celestial's eyes had many uses. It was not as simple as refining connate cardinal treasures. As for how to use it, Feng Zichen really had to think about it carefully. He couldn't make a decision so easily. With this in mind, he put away the eyes of the star devil god and retrieved the Zhouxing map from under the Tree of World. At this moment, with the fall of the star demon god, the lower half of his body that was sealed in the Zhouxing diagram quieted down and fell into complete silence as if he was dead. Regarding this, Feng Zichen also cared. It didn't matter if he was faking his death or really dead. Anyway, he had to refine it. At that time, regardless of whether it was real or fake, the star demon god would die. Then, Feng Zichen spent another 1,000 years to refine the lower half of the star demon god's body. In this way, he obtained half of the skeleton of the star devil god and a ball of pure origin of chaos. He put away the skeleton of the star demon god for future use. Feng Zichen let the Zhouxing map devour the remaining chaos origin. Then, he did not have time to rest. He took out the 10,000 spirit crown and refined the broken upper half of the star demon god's body that was sealed inside. After that, he spent another 1,000 years to obtain the other half of the skeleton of the star demon god and a ball of pure chaos origin. As usual, he put away the skeleton of the star demon god for future use. The ball of chaos origin was still devoured by Feng Zichen map for the Zhouxing map. There was no other way. Next, the Zhouxing map was going to devour the broken long banner in the star demon god's hand. But the gap between the two was too big. If he did not add something to the Zhouxing map, even if the star banner was placed in front of him, he probably would not be able to refine it. Therefore, Feng Zichen had to give the chaos origin to the Zhouxing map to devour to help him improve his grade so that he could prepare to devour the star banner next. If the gap between them was too big, it was not certain who would devour who. When everything was ready, Feng Zichen combined the power of the 3 congenital treasures, the Zhouxing map, the 24th grade green lotus of creation, and the 10,000 spirit crown, and blasted them at the star banner. Boom! Boom! Terrifying power surged in the depths of time and space. Without the control of the star demon god, how could the star banner, which was in a severely damaged state, be a match for the 3 congenital treasures? Not long after, with a bang, the star banner shattered under the attack of the 3 congenital treasures, turning into countless pieces of various sizes. Keep! At this moment, Feng Zichen suddenly activated the Zhouxing map, rolled up all the pieces of the star banner, and put them in. After that, it would be a long refining process. It could be 10,000 years or 100,000 years. In short, it would take a very long time. And when the Zhouxing map finished refining, it would transform to an extremely terrifying level and become the top congenital treasure in one fell swoop. After all, he had refined more than half of the star demon god's origin and a chaos spiritual treasure, the star banner, which was comparable to a supreme grade congenital treasure. No matter what kind of amazing transformation happened, it was not surprising. However, Feng Zichen did not have the time to wait for the Zhouxing map to transform. He had other things to do. Therefore, after putting away the Zhouxing map, he continued to rush to the Great Thousand World. This time, killing the star demon god had given Feng Zichen a taste of sweetness. One star demon god had given him such a big harvest. If he killed a few more star demon gods, wouldn't he make a fortune? Killing chaos demon gods could be said to be the most profitable business in the untainted land. Therefore, he planned to find an opportunity to kill a few more chaos demon gods before the rest of them reacted. Bastard! You're courting death! Stay. A terrifying battle broke out outside the great wide world, accompanied by a series of shocked and angry voices. Dozens of chaos demon gods woke up from their deep sleep, stepped out of their great thousand world, and attacked a purple figure. And that purple figure was undoubtedly Feng Zichen. Not long ago, Feng Zichen returned to the Great Thousand World from an unknown spacetime. It did not take long for him to lock on to his next target. The result was unexpectedly smooth. Under Feng Zichen's sneak attack, the demon god of chaos died in his hands with grievance. However, something unexpected happened when the chaos demon god was about to die. It was unknown what method the chaos demon god used to hide from Feng Zichen's perception and spread the news of his death. Good heavens! How could this be? After hearing the news, the surrounding chaos demon gods who were in deep slumber woke up from their deep slumber in shock. Then, they learned about the death of the star demon god and the chaos demon god from the aura left in the void. All of a sudden, those chaos demon gods who woke up were dumbfounded. Good heavens! Really good heavens! Someone actually dared to come to the Great Thousand World to raid their hometown when they were seriously injured and asleep? This person's arrogance was really rare in the world. Moreover, when did the Chaos Demon Gods fall to the point of becoming someone else's prey? This was truly preposterous. After the shock, an uncontrollable anger surged in the Chaos Demon God's heart. Then they attacked angrily. With a shocking murderous aura, they left their world and attacked Feng Zichen. At this time, Feng Zichen was packing up his spoils of war and preparing to head to the next target. However, just as he stepped out of this world, he bumped into a Chaos Demon God. At that time, he did not realize that the situation was wrong. Instead, he felt that he was really lucky. He was just thinking about the Chaos Demon God when one came to him. Without any hesitation, Feng Zichen and the Chaos Fiend Celestial, who had appeared out of nowhere, engaged in a fierce battle. However, what happened after that was somewhat out of his control. As the two of them fought, more and more Chaos Demon Gods rushed over and joined forces with the previous Chaos Demon God to attack Feng Zichen. Feng Zichen was not afraid of 5, 6, 7, or 8 Chaos Demon Gods. Even if he couldn't win, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get away. However, in just a short while, the number of Chaos Demon Gods that appeared in front of him had exceeded the single digits and reached as many as 13. In fact, Feng Zichen could see from the corner of his eye that more chaotic demon celestials had awakened in succession in the distance and were rushing over rapidly. At this time, if Feng Zichen still did not realize that there was a problem, he would have lived in vain. Therefore, he made a decision at the first moment. Leave. He absolutely could not continue to stay here. Otherwise, once more Chaos Demon Gods rushed over and surrounded him, he would not be able to leave. Given the hatred between him and the Chaos Demon Gods, once he fell into the hands of the Chaos Demon Gods, he would definitely end up in an unimaginably miserable state. If that really happened, perhaps death would be an extravagant hope for Feng Zichen. Therefore, he had to leave and not fall into the hands of the Chaos Demon Gods. Let's go! After making a decision, Feng Zichen did not continue to be entangled with the Chaos Demon Gods and directly used the Hongmeng Daozhong with all his might. Dong, the Dao Bell soared across the sky and hung down wisps of Hongmeng Qi, forcing the Chaos Demon Gods who were entangled with Feng Zichen to retreat and opening up an escape route. Swoosh! After putting away the Hongmeng Daozhong, Feng Zichen turned into a purple light, quickly passed through the passage and fled into the distance. However, how could the Chaos Demon Gods who were burning with anger allow him to escape so easily? Chase him! We must not let him leave this place alive. Seeing that Feng Zichen was about to escape, the group of Chaos Demon Gods who were besieging him chased after him without hesitation. If they really let Feng Zichen escape, they would be utterly disgraced as Chaos Demon Gods. Just like that, a huge chase began. Rumble! In the process of the chase, great battles broke out from time to time. The terrifying fluctuations spread out. It was unknown how many living beings living in the great wide world and countless small and medium worlds were alarmed. From time to time, there would be world-ending fluctuations above their heads. Mortals were still fine as they could not feel it clearly. However, it was different for cultivators. The more powerful they were, the more they could understand how terrifying the power above their heads was. This was simply making it hard for him to eat and sleep. Once that power fell, not to mention living beings, even the world would be destroyed. As time passed, the number of Chaos Demon Gods chasing after Feng Zichen increased. In just 100 years, the number of Chaos Demon Gods chasing after him increased from 13 to hundreds. In the beginning, Feng Zichen still had the intention to turn back and fight with them. However, when the number of Chaos Demon Gods broke through to 30, he completely extinguished the thought of resisting and focused on escaping into the distance. When the number of Chaos Demon Gods broke through to 100, Feng Zichen really regretted it. At this time, not to mention resisting, he did not even dare to turn back. He just braced himself and ran for his life. The chase continued for about 1,000 years. Feng Zichen finally found an opportunity to escape back to the untainted land with the help of the power of the Tree of World. In this way, he finally got rid of the pursuit of the Chaos Demon Gods. Phew, how exciting! Under the Tree of World, Feng Zichen let out a long breath. His experience not long ago was really thrilling. It was like dancing on a steel wire. If he was not careful, he would have been at risk of death. It was really exciting. However, the gains were often proportional to the risks. Although his experience was thrilling, his gains were also extremely gratifying. On the trip to the Outer Realm, Feng Zichen killed 2 Chaos Demon Gods, which directly more than doubled his value. In particular, he had gained something from another Chaos Demon God that was not inferior to what he had gained from the Star Demon God. After the Star Demon God, the Chaos Demon God who was attacked and killed by Feng Zichen was called the Dark Yellow Demon God. After killing him, Feng Zichen obtained a complete set of the Dark Yellow Demon God's bones, a complete set of the Origin of Chaos, and a broken Chaos Spirit treasure, the Dark Yellow Bell. This time, it directly made Feng Zichen rich. Oh right, in addition, Feng Zichen also obtained 2 complete worlds. That's right, they were the worlds owned by the Dark Yellow Demon God and the Star Demon God. Since the things were already in his hands, how could Feng Zichen hand them over? Therefore, before leaving the battle, he used the power of the Tree of World to move the 2 complete worlds to the depths of time and space and hide them. This point was not difficult for the Tree of World. Since it was named after the world, the power of the Tree of World could be imagined. It was just moving the worlds. It could not be any simpler. If the appearance of the Chaos Demon God had not ruined Feng Zichen's plan. When the 3,000 worlds were completed, he could use the power of the Tree of World to drag the 3,000 worlds away one by one. He would bring them all under his rule and would never let outsiders get even one. But unfortunately, as the Chaos Demon God broke out of the seal, the 3,000 worlds were out of his control, causing his plan to collapse before it could even begin. However, it did not matter. While everyone's attention was still on the primordial world and not paying attention to the 3,000 worlds, he could plan in advance and try his best to bring more worlds under his control. As for the Way of the Heavens? F***ck the Way of the Heavens. In the past, it was because Feng Zichen was too timid that he missed too many opportunities. Now, Feng Zichen finally understood. The Way of the Heavens was nothing. As long as you did not take it seriously, it was nothing. Since you did not take the Way of the Heavens seriously, why should you worry about its restrictions? Don't let it touch the great wide world? Feng Zichen chuckled. The Way of the Heavens was about to be unable to protect itself. How could it have the mood to care about anything else? The great wide world was there. If Feng Zichen did not move or was too late, when Dao Ancestor Hongjun and the others reacted and swarmed to the great wide world, Feng Zichen would not even be able to eat leftovers. The Way of the Heavens had been tainted by Dao Ancestor Hongjun. If he continued to look at the Way of the Heavens with his old eyes, wouldn't he be cheated to death? After all, the Way of the Heavens was different. It was time for Feng Zichen to change his mind. Otherwise, he would not even be able to eat the hot leftovers. In short, the Way of the Heavens was about to become someone else's. If he continued to maintain his reverence for it, he would be irresponsible for his own safety. The unfair Way of the Heavens, he would not admit it. Therefore, he was determined to take the 3,000 worlds. Even Dao Ancestor Hongjun could not stop him. However, now was not the time. Now, the demon god of chaos was sharpening his knife against Feng Zichen. As long as he dared to continue to appear, what awaited him would definitely be endless pursuit. For the sake of his own life, Feng Zichen decided to wait for a while before going to the 3,000 worlds. It was not a long time, only a few thousand years. After all, the demon gods of chaos were seriously injured and could not exist in the outside world for a long time. If they stayed for a long time, they would not be able to hold on and would continue to fall into a deep sleep. And this was where Feng Zichen's confidence to return to the great wide world lay. In fact, it did not take thousands of years at all. It only took a few hundred years. If the demon gods of chaos could not find the whereabouts of Feng Zichen, they would naturally give up looking for him. It was not that they were impatient, but that their state did not allow them to do so. Moreover, Although the demon gods of chaos were in the great wide world, it did not mean that they were completely isolated from the untainted land. Don't forget that there were still some clones of the demon gods of chaos hidden in the untainted land. Through these clones, the demon gods of chaos could keep track of the untainted land. Therefore, as long as Feng Zichen showed up in the untainted land, the demon gods of chaos in the great wide world would get the news immediately. P.S. Yesterday, I offered a reward for monthly votes. In fact, the condition was not met. I got 40 votes out of 80. However, I still decided to do it today. This is to repay the readers for their support. The next chapter should be very late. Chapter 692. In this way, the demon gods of chaos who received the news about Feng Zichen could not go to the untainted land to fight him, even if they were unwilling. Since they could not do anything to Feng Zichen for the time being, the demon gods of chaos had no choice but to continue sleeping. After all, sleeping would reduce their consumption and heal their injuries. Maintaining a sober state would continue to aggravate their injuries. For this reason, the demon gods of chaos were unwilling to wake up if it was not necessary. It's been thousands of years since I left the untainted land. It's time to show up and show my existence and comfort the demon gods of chaos. After a short rest under the Tree of World, Feng Zichen returned to the boundless starry sky. However, he was not in a hurry to show up. Instead, he went to the core of the boundless starry sky, where its source was. Since he was back, the first thing he did was to place the skull of the star demon god in preparation for the birth of the universal temple, which was a primordial treasure. This matter was related to the birth of the primordial treasure, so it could not be delayed. The source of the boundless starry sky was not far from the Ziwei star. No, to be precise, the source of the boundless starry sky was in the same place as the Ziwei star. It was just that they were in different spaces. The void where the Ziwei star was located was actually divided into two layers. The outer layer was the void where the Ziwei star was located, and the inner layer was the source of the boundless starry sky. After crossing the void boundary, Feng Zichen disappeared from the Ziwei star and came to a mysterious space. This place was full of rich primordial star essence, and the source of the stars appeared and floated in the air. As he continued to walk in, he found that there were bright stars hanging above the space, corresponding to the Zhouxing. This place was like a boundless starry sky that had been shrunk countless times. This was the core of the boundless starry sky, where its source was. The primordial Zhouxing map was born here. In the future, the universal temple, which would be born in the boundless starry sky, would also be born here. It could be said that this was the most important place in the boundless starry sky. It was not inferior to the three supreme stars, Taiyin, Taiyang, and Ziwei. It's here. According to his memories of the future, Feng Zichen found the place where the domain god palace was born. A large cluster of star sources was gathered there. Clearly, it was nurturing something. If there were no mishaps, the star sources should be nurturing the cyclic sacred palace. However, it was still too early for Feng Zichen to arrive. The origin of stars had just begun to gather, and was far from being able to form a natural embryo of Tao. Thus, not to mention taking shape, the cycle sacred palace was nowhere to be seen. However, this was exactly what Feng Zichen wanted to see. If the heavenly cycle temple had already taken shape, it would be difficult for him to control it. Refining the skull of the star demon god into the domain palace was no easy task. On the contrary, the current situation was just right and could save him a lot of trouble. Phew! After carefully placing the skull of the star demon god in the center of the cluster of star sources, Feng Zichen finally relaxed. Then, he made a series of hand seals with both hands and guided the star shadows to set up a simple galaxy cosmic light formation that enveloped the skull of the star demon god. Rumble! The moment the formation was formed, the entire core area suddenly shook. Then, the star sources floating there seemed to be attracted by an unknown force and gathered toward the skull of the star demon god. In the blink of an eye, it was drowned. The birth of the boundless starry sky had originally merged with part of the star demon god's origin. Therefore, in a sense, the skull of the star demon god and the boundless starry sky were of the same origin. Therefore, when the skull of the star demon god came into contact with the origin of the boundless starry sky, it immediately resonated. Wisps of star sources were absorbed by the skull of the star demon god, and its form began to change slowly. This will do. I don't think it will take much time. Perhaps in the next Cultivation Tribulation or the Cultivation Tribulation after that, the Universal Temple will be born. Feng Zichen stood aside with his hands clasped behind his back, quietly watching the changes here, and muttered to himself. The birth of a primordial treasure was never a simple matter. Not only did it require a large amount of origin to nurture, but it also required a long period of time to take shape. Therefore, it was considered very fast for a primordial treasure to be born in just 1 or 2 eras. After confirming that there were no problems, Feng Zichen turned around and left the place, returning to the Emperor's Star. Next, I should go to the Heavenly Court to take a look. It's been thousands of years since I left the Untainted Land. The Heavenly Lord of the Origin and the others should have rebuilt the Heavenly Court. After returning to the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of the Heavenly Court and wanted to go there to take a look. After all, he was one of the 4 deities. Now that the Heavenly Court had been rebuilt, it would be unreasonable if he did not go there to show his face. However, just as he walked out of the Emperor's Star, he seemed to suddenly think of something and slowly stopped. Then Feng Zichen took out the skeleton of the star demon god. At this time, after some assembly, the skeleton of the star demon god, except for the position of the head, was complete. It could be said that this was a headless body. Break! After thinking for a moment, Feng Zichen suddenly waved his sleeve and threw a punch at the skeleton of the star demon god. Bang! Under Feng Zichen's punch, the skeleton of the star demon god directly exploded into 365 pieces and fell into the 365 Zhoshing. In the future that Feng Zichen saw, in addition to the boundless starry sky, the 365 Zhoshing also gave birth to their own universal palace. It was just that their level was far lower than that of the boundless starry sky. Except for the 3 supreme stars that gave birth to the upper-grade primordial spirit treasure, the rest gave birth to the middle and lower-grade primordial spirit treasure. Originally, Feng Zichen did not care about these things. After all, his attention was all on the primordial spirit treasure. But now, as the matter of the primordial spirit treasure came to an end, the matter of these primordial spirit treasures came to his mind. The middle and lower grade primordial spirit treasure was a little low. Coincidentally, Feng Zichen still had the skeleton of the star demon god in his hands. He thought that since he had no use for this thing now, he might as well integrate it into the Zhoshing to help it give birth to a stronger primordial spirit treasure. Thinking like this, Feng Zichen did the same. So, there was the scene just now. When the boundless starry sky completely refines the skeleton of the star demon god, then the strength of the boundless starry sky will definitely increase by a level. Perhaps, after that, the boundless starry sky will be completely restored. After silently sensing the situation of the boundless starry sky for a while, Feng Zichen had a plan in his heart. Due to the impact of the decisive battle between the liches and demons, the boundless starry sky had been shattered once. After that, although Feng Zichen had been doing his best to repair it, it had not been completely restored until now. But today, Feng Zichen's action of integrating the skeleton of the star demon god into the boundless starry sky would undoubtedly greatly speed up its recovery. Perhaps, this was the opportunity for the boundless starry sky to be completely restored. And a completely restored boundless starry sky had a special meaning for Feng Zichen. After the boundless starry sky was restored, the road of promotion would be opened. And this would greatly increase Feng Zichen's strength. As long as the boundless starry sky was strong enough, he could even fight against the way of the heavens. Feng Zichen had absolute control over the boundless starry sky. Even the way of the heavens could not interfere. Because, in a sense, the boundless starry sky that was opened up by Pangu had been destroyed in the decisive battle between the liches and demons. The current boundless starry sky was opened up by Feng Zichen. Therefore, he had absolute control over it. It was Di Jun's rebirth. and it could not compete with him. He was the god of creation of the boundless starry sky. As long as he was still alive, he would be the most supreme existence in the boundless starry sky. Why did Feng Zichen have the confidence to fight against the way of the heavens? It was because of the boundless starry sky. As long as he was given time, he could even develop the boundless starry sky into a second primitive world. In this way, why would he be afraid of the way of the heavens? After doing all this, Feng Zichen walked towards the heavenly court, and with his movements, the surrounding starlight spontaneously gathered, forming a dazzling river of stars under his feet. From afar, it was as if there was a dazzling river of stars pushing him to move. As he walked, Feng Zichen suddenly exclaimed softly. Just in front, he seemed to have noticed the sounds of fighting, as if someone was fighting with the star beast. This was a little strange. This was the interior of the boundless starry sky. Logically speaking, there should not be any creatures other than the star beast. In the boundless starry sky, there were many secrets of Feng Zichen. Therefore, he had never allowed outsiders to step in. Even his subordinates, he only placed them at the periphery of the boundless starry sky. As for the interior, without his permission, outsiders were definitely not allowed to step in. But now, Feng Zichen actually sensed the aura of outsiders in the interior of the boundless starry sky. This made him a little unhappy. A bunch of trash. Frowning, Feng Zichen scolded with some displeasure. He was naturally scolding his subordinates, those innate races who came from the primitive world to seek refuge with him. They couldn't even do a small thing like guarding the door well. Shouldn't they be scolded? Feeling displeased, Feng Zichen walked in the direction of the sounds of fighting. He wanted to see who had the guts to trespass into the boundless starry sky. At such a short distance, it was rare for him to release his divine will. There were so many things going on in his own home. Wasn't he tired? When he came closer, Feng Zichen saw a team of well-equipped heavenly soldiers. However, their situation was not good. They were fighting with a group of powerful star beasts. Looking at their sorry state, it was obvious that they had been fighting for a long time. Seeing this, Feng Zichen became even angrier. He increasingly felt that his subordinates were a bunch of trash. If one or two people had sneaked in, it would be somewhat understandable. After all, the boundless starry sky was so big. There would always be mistakes. However, for such a conspicuous group of people to be able to strut around in the boundless starry sky, this was no longer something that could be explained by a dereliction of duty. Although the heavenly soldiers were well equipped, the star beasts were obviously more ferocious. It could be said that they were completely suppressing the other party. Feng Zichen was not surprised by this. The star beasts in the boundless starry sky were roughly divided into two types. One was the innate star beasts bred by heaven and earth. They were not much weaker than the innate star gods. However, these innate star beasts either died at the hands of the innate star gods or were killed by the demon race. They had long gone extinct. The other type of star beast was the star beasts that lived in the boundless starry sky today. They were a race born from the combination of the murderous aura and the star origin when Feng Zichen evolved the primordial divine murderous chi for the boundless starry sky. In a sense, they were also a type of ferocious beast. Therefore, they were abnormally powerful, even more powerful than the innate star beasts. It was just that they did not have intelligence. Otherwise, this would be another powerful innate race. When Feng Zichen saw these heavenly soldiers, they naturally saw him too. Well, the galaxy paved the way and the stars followed. It was difficult not to notice such a grand scene. Is that Emperor Myrtle Star in front? Please save us, Emperor Myrtle Star. Seeing Feng Zichen, the leading heavenly general hurriedly shouted as if he had seen a savior. Hearing that, Feng Zichen wanted to leave. Trespassing into the boundless starry sky was a capital offense. It was ridiculous to expect him to save them. However, he saw a familiar face from the corner of his eye, which made him change his mind. It was a young woman. If Feng Zichen remembered correctly, that woman should be one of Haotian's daughters. In addition, with the Haotian mirror hanging on her waist, he could basically confirm her identity. Therefore, Feng Zichen could not save her. Even if he did not do anything, the woman would be fine with the protection of the Haotian mirror. However, if Haotian knew that he passed by and did not help, it would be difficult for them to meet in the future. Although he and Haotian were not on good terms, in the end, there was no hatred between them. There was no need to make their relationship too tense. With that thought, Feng Zichen moved. He did not make any big movements. He only took a step forward gently. However, those star beasts seemed to have met an extremely terrifying existence. They all knelt on the ground and whimpered in fear. For star beasts, even if they did not have intelligence, they knew that the person in front of them was the existence that created them. He was also the existence that they would listen to for the rest of their lives. Get lost, Feng Zichen said softly. He did not kill them, because there was no need. These star beasts were all his subordinates. Woo woo woo, hearing Feng Zichen's voice, these star beasts ran away quickly as if they had been pardoned. At the side, the heavenly general who saw this scene could not help but say, "Emperor Myrtle Star, why did you let them go?" They are, however, before he could finish, he would never have the chance to speak again. Feng Zichen looked at him unhappily. Then, the heavenly general suddenly turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared in front of everyone. For a moment, everyone present shivered. No one dared to make a sound. After a long time, the woman who seemed to be Haotian's daughter came forward and said to Feng Zichen, "Greetings, Emperor Myrtle Star." With that, Yaoji bowed to Feng Zichen. Yaoji? At this moment, Feng Zichen realized that he had recognized the wrong person. She was not Haotian's daughter, but his sister, Yaoji. She was also a person of great merit. Did she really think that anyone could be reincarnated as Haotian's sister? She must have great merit to have this opportunity to be reincarnated as Haotian's sister and obtain the opportunity to reach the heavens in one step. In Feng Zichen's eyes, Yaoji's body was full of bright golden light. It was so dazzling that he could not open his eyes. That was all merit. He did not know what Yaoji had done to have so much merit. If she refined the merit on her body, she would probably be able to reach the realm of Daluo Jingxian. However, this was not the reason why Feng Zichen looked at her differently. Yaoji had some merit, but how could it be comparable to him? In terms of merit, no one could have more than him except for Nyua Hutu. Therefore, Yaoji's merit was really not worth Feng Zichen's attention. The real reason why Feng Zichen looked at Yaoji differently was that she had been schemed against by Junti in the future. With Yaoji's status, how could she fall in love with a mortal and have 3 sons? Not to mention the problem of whether she liked him or not, the gap between them was so big that she might not even be able to sleep with him. Obviously, Yaoji had been schemed against. Who was the one who schemed against her? Feng Zichen, who came from the future, knew very well. It was the sages led by Junti. The purpose of their actions was to further suppress Great Heaven's prestige. This could be seen from what Yang Jian had done. Whether it was rebelling against Haotian or splitting a mountain to save his mother, it was a huge blow to Haotian's dignity. If the celestial emperor's dignity was destroyed, the heavenly court would naturally become a decoration. Then, wouldn't the untainted land be the world of the sages? Feng Zichen, who understood the sage's plan, naturally looked at Yaoji differently. She was a key person. Haotian valued relationships, so it was the best choice to attack the people around him. But it was different for the 7 fairies. Behind the 7 fairies was the Jade Pool. If he hurt his daughter, the Jade Pool might go crazy and directly complain to the Purple Cloud Palace. In that case, everyone would be punished. Therefore, Yaoji became the best choice. Their relationship was not far or close. The Jade Pool might take care of her, but would never put all her eggs in one basket for her. It made sense. With Haotian's strength, Yang Jian was his nephew. Otherwise, why not try it on someone else? He could slap him to death with a backhand. Now, Haotian was not the puppet celestial emperor who had lost all his spirit after being apatheized by the sages. He still had some courage. If he was really angered, even the sages would dare to attack him, let alone the disciples of the sages. Knowing that Junti schemed against Yaoji, Feng Zichen naturally had to pay attention to her. He planned to plot against Juanti when he made his move. It was exciting to think about plotting against Juanti. P.S. 10,000 words achieved. You didn't break your promise this time. Chapter 693. The Princess Royal of the Celestial Court? Why have you come to the boundless starry sky? Feng Zichen murmured to himself. He put away the chaotic thoughts in his heart, nodded, and asked Yaoji in a calm tone. Looking at his majestic appearance, he didn't seem to have any intention of scheming against her. Reporting to the Emperor. Yaoji is here to invite the Emperor to attend the Feast of Peaches under the orders of the Queen Mother. Yaoji bowed and replied respectfully. She had to be respectful. Yaoji only realized how terrifying Feng Zichen was when she stood in front of him. The vast and boundless aura from him made her feel as if she was facing the Great Path. It was as if the person in front of her was the Great Path. Strong, unbelievably strong. If he wanted to kill her, it would be easier than crushing an ant. Yaoji even had a feeling that her brother, the Celestial Emperor Haoyan, was far less powerful than the great of Ziwei in front of her. Even her biggest backer was no match for him. As such, Yaoji was naturally very respectful in front of Feng Zichen. Queen Mother? Feng Zichen didn't pay attention to the Feast of Peaches. Instead, he focused on the two words, Queen Mother. Is this Queen Mother Yaoqi? Feng Zichen asked after pondering for a while. Yes, it's my sister-in-law. Yaoji didn't know the purpose of his question, but she still answered. What about Haoyan? How should I address him? After getting an affirmative answer, Feng Zichen continued to ask. Haoyan's Golden Palace Supreme Natural Mystic True Jade Emperor. Yaoji replied. Hearing this, Feng Zichen couldn't help but show a disdainful expression. Haoyan Golden Palace's Supreme Master Nature Miraculous Mi Luo True Jade Emperor. This honorific title sounded quite long, and it was quite honorable. But how could it be comparable to the Celestial Emperor? Haoyan's choice of such an honorific title was clearly lowering his status. Perhaps he succumbed to the pressure of the sages, or perhaps he was afraid that he could not suppress the position of the Celestial Emperor. Haoyan had to reduce his position in order to protect himself. However, how could Feng Zichen be impressed by such behavior? It was inevitable that they would look down on him. Feng Zichen didn't hide his disdain for Haoyan, which naturally fell into Yaoji's eyes. A strong sense of dissatisfaction rose in her heart, but she did not dare to show it. Monarch, are you going to attend the Immortality Peach Banquet? Yaoji forcibly suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart and squeezed out a smile, asking. Go. Why not? Feng Zichen nodded and said with a smile. She naturally felt the dissatisfaction in Yaoji's heart, but she didn't care. After all, Yaoji was only a celestial immortal. If she wasn't Haoyan's sister, she wouldn't even be qualified to talk to Feng Zichen. The gap between them was so big that even if Yaoji wanted to harm Feng Zichen, she couldn't do it. Let's go! With a chuckle, Feng Zichen didn't care about the crowd's reaction. He directly carried everyone and rushed toward the heavenly court. With just one step, he was out of the boundless starry sky. Rumble! Out of the boundless starry sky, the stars that followed Feng Zichen slowly faded away. However, in heaven and earth, tens of thousands of rules appeared, replacing the position of the stars and continuing to follow Feng Zichen. The galaxy paved the way, and tens of thousands of rules followed. All kinds of amazing phenomena of heaven and earth appeared one after another around Feng Zichen, all of them showing his nobility. As the most noble existence in the untainted world, Great Emperor Ziwei was second to none in terms of playing cards. Even the sages were inferior to him. The heavenly way had almost blessed its younger brother, Great Emperor Ziwei, with all its halos. But beside Feng Zichen, Yaoji and the heavenly soldiers all opened their mouths wide and looked around in shock. They were weak, so they had never seen such a scene. Tens of thousands of rules appeared one after another, which simply broke their understanding. It was no exaggeration to say that just standing beside Feng Zichen for a short while was equivalent to thousands of years of cultivation. Especially Yaoji, under the shroud of the tens of thousands of rules, even showed signs of a breakthrough. However, unlike the shock of the crowd, Feng Zichen's expression was not very good. Because he saw the primeval Lord of Heaven. He didn't know if it was a coincidence, but not long after he left the boundless starry sky, he bumped into the primeval Lord of Heaven. *CK. What a show-off! Seeing the primeval Lord of Heaven in the 9 dragons Agarwood chariot, Feng Zichen couldn't help but curse in a low voice. Look at him, 9 dragons pulling a chariot. Then look at himself, walking over just like that. The difference was obvious in an instant. At this moment, looking at the show-off primeval Lord of Heaven, Feng Zichen couldn't help but make up his mind to build a chariot some other day. It must be more high-end than the primeval Lord of Heaven's. How arrogant! Like Feng Zichen, after seeing him, the primeval Lord of Heaven's face instantly darkened. Especially after seeing the strange phenomena around him one after another, the primeval Lord of Heaven's face became even darker. Feng Zichen was jealous of the 9 dragons Agarwood chariot under the primeval Lord of Heaven, but how could the primeval Lord of Heaven not be jealous of the strange phenomena of heaven and earth surrounding him? In the end, people only cared about what they didn't have. When one's strength reached the level of the primeval Lord of Heaven and Feng Zichen, face was especially important. Especially in front of the enemy, face was even more important. No one was willing to lose face in front of the enemy. Therefore, it would be strange if the two of them were happy after seeing that they couldn't compare to the other party. Humph! Feeling that they had lost face, the two of them snorted at each other and didn't say anything. They directly separated and rushed to the heavenly court from the other side. With Feng Zichen's speed, he soon brought everyone to the heavenly court. At this time, the heavenly court had already been rebuilt. In terms of scale and majesty, it was not inferior to the previous one. Under the illumination of the stars in the sky, the entire heavenly court was blooming with bright divine light. It could be said to be glorious and luxurious to the extreme. It was surrounded by a holy aura and an auspicious aura. Anyone who saw it would have to praise that it was a holy land of immortals. However, the current heavenly court was glorious, but compared to before, it lacked the vicissitudes of history and gave people a feeling that it lacked a foundation. When they arrived at the southern heaven gate, Feng Zichen first put down Yaoji and the others. Then, without caring about them, he walked straight into the heavenly court. At this moment, Hao Yin, who sensed Feng Zichen's arrival, quickly put down what he was doing and quickly rushed to the southern heaven gate to personally welcome him. Fellow Taoist Ziwei is here. Before Feng Zichen stepped into the southern heaven gate, he heard Hao Yin's voice from afar. Then, he saw a middle-aged man in a royal robe rushing over and greeting him with a smile on his face. Seeing Hao Yin's appearance, Feng Zichen couldn't help but sigh. The last time he saw Hao Yin, he still looked like a young man. But now, in just a few thousand years, he seemed to have aged dozens of years and turned into a middle-aged man. In Feng Zichen's opinion, this was extremely incredible. At their level of strength, time could no longer leave a trace on their bodies. No matter how the long river of time flowed, they stood still. This was their true portrayal. In Feng Zichen's opinion, Hao Tian's situation was a sign of the decline of his heart. Although his body was not old, his heart could be old. This was the common saying that the heart was scattered. When the heart was scattered, one would naturally age very quickly. He didn't know what kind of blow Hao Yin had experienced that caused his Taoist heart to decline. When it was reflected on his body, his appearance began to age. Seeing Hao Yin's current situation, Feng Zichen prepared in advance to ridicule him, but he couldn't say a word. "Hey! Fellow Taoist Hao Yin, long time no see." In the end, thousands of words turned into a long sigh and a greeting. "Fellow Taoist, please." As if he didn't notice Feng Zichen's abnormality, Hao Tian smiled and welcomed him in. Affected by this, Feng Zichen was not in the mood to continue participating in the following Feast of Peaches. After chatting with a few friends he was familiar with for a while and supporting the Jade Pool for a while, he found an excuse to leave. The Feast of Peaches was originally a party that the Queen Mother of the West wanted to help Hao Yin win over people's hearts. It didn't matter whether he participated or not. After returning to the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen first sat in meditation for 1,000 years, and then quietly left the primitive world and went to the Realm Sea through the Tree of World. The so-called Realm Sea was what Feng Zichen called the void where the 3,000 worlds were located. There were countless small, medium, and small worlds gathered there. Wasn't it a sea of worlds? The name of the Realm Sea was well-deserved. After restraining all his aura, Feng Zichen carefully left the roots of the Tree of World and stood on the Realm Sea. Phew! After waiting for a while, nothing unexpected happened. Feng Zichen, who was ready to run away at any time, let out a long sigh of relief. As expected, the demon god of chaos couldn't hold on and went back to sleep. Pangu is really ruthless. At this time, Feng Zichen couldn't help but sigh at Pangu's ruthlessness. Previously, the demon god of chaos was so arrogant that he simply regarded the masters of the primitive world as nothing. As soon as he found an opportunity, he rushed to attack the primitive world. But now, with Pangu's attack, the demon god of chaos disappeared one after another, hiding in the great 1,000 worlds and sleeping silently. They had to rely on sleeping to recover from their injuries, and they couldn't even appear for a long time. One could imagine how serious their injuries were. Even if they were not at their last breath, they were not far from it. Otherwise, hundreds of demon gods of chaos wouldn't have joined forces to let him escape, and they wouldn't have been able to hurt him. It was all because he was seriously injured and couldn't fully exert his strength. If the demon god of chaos was in his peak state, there would be no need for hundreds of demon gods of chaos to attack him. Only 10 of them would be able to beat Feng Zichen to a pulp. However, it was precisely because the demon god of chaos was injured that Feng Zichen had a chance to invade the great 1,000 worlds. By now, Feng Zichen could almost figure out the reason why Pangu attacked the demon god of chaos. On the one hand, it was to prevent the great 1,000 worlds from completely falling into the hands of the demon god of chaos. On the other hand, it was because the strength of the demon god of chaos had increased too quickly. In just tens of thousands of years, the great masters of the primitive world were no match for the demon god of chaos. In that case, wouldn't the primitive world be conquered by them after a while? Therefore, the strength of the demon god of chaos had to be suppressed to give the great masters of the primitive world a chance to catch up with him. Pangu was also well-versed in the way of balance. During the years when the demon god of chaos was asleep, his strength definitely wouldn't improve and might even regress. However, after receiving the gift from the demon god of chaos, the great masters of the primitive world would definitely become stronger day by day. If you retreated, I would advance. Wouldn't the gap be obvious? Walking towards a great 1,000 worlds, Feng Zichen stepped forward to observe carefully. Tisk, tisk. However, after thousands of years, these demon gods of chaos have become much shrewder. Compared to last time, the mysterious runes on the boundary wall were undoubtedly more mysterious. Obviously, after suffering a loss last time, the demon god of chaos had learned his lesson and improved these mysterious runes, so that their power had been strengthened. In the past, Feng Zichen might have been able to hide from these runes and enter the great 1,000 worlds by paying a price. But now, as soon as he got close to these mysterious runes, the corresponding demon god of chaos would probably wake up from his deep sleep. In this situation, unless Feng Zichen could kill the demon god of chaos in seconds, the awakening of one demon god of chaos was equivalent to the awakening of all the demon gods of chaos. Then, the scene of thousands of years would reappear. Feng Zichen was crazily chased by hundreds of demon gods of chaos. However, he really didn't want to experience that kind of experience a second time, because even he wasn't sure that he could escape from the pursuit of the demon gods of chaos every time. Last time, Feng Zichen was lucky enough to escape from the pursuit of hundreds of demon gods of chaos with the help of the power of the Tree of World. But this time, the demon gods of chaos were on guard, so it would be difficult for him to escape. Moreover, there was a great chance that he would die in the hands of the demon gods of chaos. After all, they were the demon gods of chaos, the most powerful beings in the world. Who knew what unimaginable means they had in their hands? What if they retained the means from the Chaos era? Then, wouldn't Feng Zichen be in trouble? Therefore, when fighting with the demon gods of chaos, one couldn't be too careful. Just as Feng Zichen was thinking about how to enter the great wide world without alerting the demon gods of chaos, danger was approaching quietly. Silently, a large black shadow suddenly appeared behind him, covering the surrounding void and blocking his way of retreat. Oh no, danger! Inexplicably, Feng Zichen suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. Then, without thinking, he rushed forward. However, when he realized the danger, it was already too late. Whoosh! Under the shadow, Feng Zichen, who had just run half the distance, was completely swallowed. Then, the void distorted, revealing hundreds of terrifying figures. They were the demon gods of chaos. Hundreds of demon gods of chaos. They didn't continue to sleep at all. Instead, they hid at the side and ambushed, waiting for Feng Zichen to appear so that they could give him a surprise. He had underestimated the demon gods of chaos too much. His plan, which he thought was perfect, had been seen through by the demon gods of chaos early on. Therefore, the demon gods of chaos beat him at his own game and carefully set up a sure kill situation for him. Feng Zichen was in danger. Kill! As soon as the demon gods of chaos appeared, they didn't hesitate at all. They directly raised the chaos spiritual treasures in their hands and attacked Feng Zichen, who was swallowed by the shadow. Rumble! Hundreds of terrifying forces erupted at the same time, and the resulting power directly tore the shadow that swallowed Feng Zichen and completely shattered the void. Even the void precepts were not spared. First, they were turned into dust, and then they vanished into thin air. After the first wave of attack, the demon gods of chaos launched the second wave of attack almost without any interval. Then, the third, the fourth, after countless attacks, the demon gods of chaos finally exhausted their strength and stopped attacking. At this time, the void where Feng Zichen was originally had completely disappeared under the attack of the demon gods of chaos. It had completely returned to the state of nothingness. Has he died just like that? He's really lucky. These demon gods of chaos went forward to check carefully. After confirming that Feng Zichen's aura had completely disappeared, they laughed with relief. Among them, a few demon gods of chaos complained unhappily, as if killing Feng Zichen was really too lucky for him. Woo woo woo. Suddenly, the wail of the great Tao of stars came from the void, and endless blood rain fell. This scene, all of them signified the fall of Feng Zichen. The death of the Taoist master. The great Tao wailed and blood rain fell from the sky. However, this strange phenomenon only appeared here and did not appear in the untainted land. The demon gods of chaos were not surprised by this. Ever since they invaded the great wide world, the control of the great wide world by the way of heaven could be said to have dropped to the freezing point. This meant that the way of heaven was completely unaware of everything that happened in the great wide world. This place was already half out of the control of the way of heaven. After all, the demon gods of chaos did not want the way of heaven above them to be constantly monitoring their movements. For this reason, the demon gods of chaos had used some unknown means to make the way of heaven unable to observe the great wide world. Since the way of heaven did not exist here, the news of Feng Zichen's death naturally could not spread to the untainted land. In this way, the news of Feng Zichen's death could not be obtained, and the corresponding phenomenon would not be born in the world. Perhaps, when Feng Zichen was reborn from the Ziwei star, the world would know that he had died once. It seems that he has really died. It was not until this moment that the demon gods of chaos were sure that Feng Zichen had really died. Although the demon gods of chaos had been planning for this moment for a long time, they still felt that it was unreal when they saw Feng Zichen die so easily in their hands. After all, that was a man who had once caused them a lot of trouble. He should not have died so easily. Fearing that there was something wrong, the demon gods of chaos had never dared to confirm whether Feng Zichen had really died. It was not until the great Tao produced a corresponding phenomenon, and they did not find any suspicious points that they were relieved. P.S. In the future, it would be updated at about 23 o'clock. If it was updated, it should be updated at 20 o'clock. In other words, if it was not updated at 20 o'clock, it would be a chapter that day. Chapter 694. Unfortunately, these chaos demon gods didn't know. When it came to faking death, Feng Zichen was a professional. It was just a fake vision of heaven and earth. So many powerful people had died in the primitive world. He could just copy one and modify it a little. Wouldn't it become his? Faking it. Feng Zichen had already reached the acme of perfection. These chaos demon gods were still too inexperienced in front of him. After confirming Feng Zichen's death, these chaos demon gods heaved a sigh of relief, as if a burden had been lifted off their minds. Then, they left and returned to the great wide world under their control to sleep. Time passed quickly. Soon, 1,000 years had passed. It seems that he has really died. Suddenly, the figure of a chaos demon god quietly appeared at the place where Feng Zichen had died. After carefully investigating for a moment, he said, it turned out that a few of the chaos demon gods who had left didn't leave at all. Instead, they found a place to hide. Until now, they still suspected that Feng Zichen hadn't died. Therefore, they were squatting here. If Feng Zichen didn't appear, it would be fine. But if he reappeared in the world, the chaos demon gods who were waiting here wouldn't mind sending him on his last journey. After saying that, the chaos demon god who was waiting here turned around and left. But this matter wasn't over yet. In the blink of an eye, another 1,000 years had passed. In the same place, different figures were doing the same thing. Did I guess wrongly? This was another chaos demon god who was waiting here. However, he was more patient than the previous one. He waited for 2,000 years before showing up. But the result was the same as the previous chaos demon god. He didn't find anything wrong. It seems that he has really died. Damn it. I wasted 2,000 years of my time for nothing. The chaos fiend god shook his head and cursed as he left. In this way, another 1,000 years had passed. In the same place, the third chaos demon god appeared. But he still didn't gain anything. Then he also left. As for whether there was a third chaos demon god after that, Feng Zichen didn't know and didn't care. Because he was not there at all. He wasn't even in the realm sea, so what did the chaos fiend god's ambush have to do with him? Feng Zichen was a shrewd person. How could he put himself in danger if he didn't understand the situation? Therefore, he didn't go to realm sea at all. The Feng Zichen that was killed by the chaos fiend god was only a temporary clone that he created through the blood altar. This temporary incarnation had inherited most of Feng Zichen's abilities and possessed 1/10 of his power. Other than not being able to exist for a long time, everything else could be said to be perfect. Feng Zichen attached great importance to the chaos demon god. Therefore, he didn't think that his trip to the realm sea would be as smooth as he imagined. It was precisely because of this concern that he deliberately created a temporary incarnation for himself so that he could take the risk for himself. After creating the incarnation, Feng Zichen sent him out while he sat on the Ziwei star and watched the development of things quietly. As expected, his incarnation was killed by the chaos fiend gods not long after it arrived at the realm sea. To be honest, the scene of the chaos fiend god attacking really scared Feng Zichen. Hundreds of chaos fiend gods holding chaos spiritual treasures attacking one person with all their strength. Just thinking about this kind of scene was terrifying. Not to mention that it happened to one person. To put it bluntly, if Feng Zichen had been in the position of his incarnation, he would have been blasted into smithereens under the joint attack of hundreds of chaos demon gods, even though he was protected by several primordial cardinal treasures. There was no way he could survive. Even if Dao ancestor Hongjun was there, he might not be able to withstand the joint attack of hundreds of chaos fiend gods. That level of attack was really too terrifying. Therefore, Feng Zichen's incarnation completely disappeared under the attack of the chaos fiend gods before he could even scream. That was to say, the chaos fiend gods were ruthless enough to destroy everything, and the void returned to the state of nothingness. Otherwise, as long as there was a little bit of Feng Zichen's incarnation left behind, the chaos fiend gods would be able to determine Feng Zichen's situation through this trace. They wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Unfortunately, in order to completely eliminate Feng Zichen's vitality, the chaos fiend celestial was merciless. It was estimated that the chaos fiend celestial was at the same level when he fought Pangu. Therefore, everything was destroyed by their own hands, including the evidence. This could be considered as helping Feng Zichen imperceptibly. Damn it! How can these Chaos Fiend gods be so insidious? Just as the Chaos Fiend gods were squatting on the Emperor Star, Feng Zichen was cursing at them. Fortunately, it was his incarnation that went. If it was his original body, he would probably have died. This time, Feng Zichen was really frightened. If it weren't for his vigilance, he would have been defeated this time. Now that he thought about it, Feng Zichen also understood how the Chaos Fiend gods schemed against him. It was a very simple exchange of blows. His initial train of thought was correct. The Chaos Fiend gods indeed couldn't stay in the outside world for too long. However, there were enough Chaos Fiend gods. Therefore, they adopted a system of rotation. A group of people ambushed and a group of people slept. When the group of people ambushed couldn't hold on any longer, they would be replaced. This happened again and again. Finally, Feng Zichen came. It was also the reason why Feng Zichen underestimated the Chaos Fiend god's desire to kill. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a low-level mistake. Tisk, didn't he just kill 2 Chaos Fiend gods? How much hatred, how much resentment? Is it necessary? After calming down, Feng Zichen kept complaining. Then, he began to think about how to take revenge on the Chaos Fiend gods. After being scared so badly, of course, he had to take revenge. Moreover, even if it wasn't for what happened just now, just for the upper-class worlds that they had occupied, Feng Zichen couldn't let them go. He had to take revenge. He also wanted the upper-class worlds. With such a big mess, the Realm Sea won't be able to pass through in a short period of time. However, it doesn't matter. Anyway, if we go over now, we won't be able to enter the upper-class worlds. Isn't that the same as not going over? Besides, who said that the Chaos Fiend gods have to go to the upper-class worlds? Feng Zichen thought about it and finally thought of a way to deal with the Chaos Fiend gods. Externally, he had no way to deal with the Chaos Fiend gods. Then he could only attack from the inside. As the saying goes, the strongest fortress often starts to collapse from the inside. The internal destruction was more serious than the external destruction. Moreover, at this time, the Chaos Fiend gods had all fallen into a deep sleep. It was a great opportunity to cause trouble from the inside. As the saying goes, if the heavens don't take it, they will be blamed instead. With such a good opportunity in front of Feng Zichen, if he still didn't take action, then even the heavens wouldn't be able to stand it anymore. After making up his mind, Feng Zichen immediately took action. As for how to take action, the key was in those small and medium-sized worlds. That's right. Feng Zichen couldn't enter the upper-class worlds, but he could enter the small and medium-sized worlds. And the small and medium-sized worlds were connected to the upper-class worlds. In the primordial world, there were 3,000 upper-class worlds. And each upper-class world was accompanied by 3,000 medium-class worlds. Each medium-class world was accompanied by 3,000 small-class worlds. As for the small-class worlds, they were accompanied by countless small-class worlds. In other words, each upper-class world was a whole. There were 3,000 medium-class worlds and many small-class worlds. Since they were a whole, then they must be connected. Take a simple example. The relationship between the upper-class world and the medium-class world was like the relationship between the human world and the immortal world. When the strength of the cultivators reached a certain level, they would ascend from the medium-class world to the upper-class world. Feng Zichen's plan was to cultivate a large number of cultivators from the medium-class world, and then let them ascend to the upper-class world, establish forces crazily there, and start the mode of world hegemony. In the end, when these cultivators grew to a certain level and could control the will of the world, Feng Zichen could quietly sneak into the upper-class world through the connection between them and kill the Chaos Fiend god who was sleeping there. They didn't necessarily need to grow to the point of controlling the will of the world. As long as they had a certain influence in the upper-class world, Feng Zichen would have a way to bypass the means of the Chaos Fiend god and enter the upper-class world. As for why those cultivators would listen to him? Friends, have you heard of the Lord God? Have you heard of the Samsara traveler? Or the trading city of 10,000 worlds? How could Feng Zichen be sure that those cultivators would listen to him? It was nothing more than the benefits he could bring to those cultivators. As long as there were enough benefits, no one would not be tempted. These days, only benefits could make people trust him the most. This thing was more useful than a great Tao oath. According to Feng Zichen's plan, he was prepared to combine the Lord God, the Reincarnation Pagoda, the trading city of 10,000 worlds, and other similar things in the future to build a huge base. Then, he would use this as a platform to issue missions to the cultivators he had chosen. At the same time, he would also make this place a place for everyone to trade. And those upper-class worlds would be the targets of these cultivators' invasion. Completing the characters issued by Feng Zichen would give rewards and points. As one of the richest existences in the primordial world, Feng Zichen had too many treasures in his hands. In particular, he also had the boundless starry sky as a treasure land. The things he revealed between his teeth were enough for him to reward those cultivators. Magic treasures, magical powers, cultivation methods, heavenly materials and earthly treasures, spiritual pills and miraculous medicines, it had everything that one could wish for. As long as the mission was completed well, Feng Zichen would not be stingy with the rewards. Everything was similar to the Lord God space. In addition to the Lord God space, this base could also provide a trading platform for everyone. As for the currency used for trading, Feng Zichen had already thought about it. He would use the creation pill invented by Xianxia. As a divine item refined from innate essence, the creation pill was a hard currency. Not only could it directly increase one's strength, but it could also cultivate magic treasures. It was simply a jack-of-all-trades similar to merit. A low-level creation pill might not be as good as merit, but the chaos creation pill was definitely more precious than merit. Using the creation pill as a reward was the most appropriate. Moreover, when everyone was trading, Feng Zichen could also take a commission. If the city of 10,000 worlds could develop and grow stronger one day, then just these commissions would make Feng Zichen crazy. However, that was all in the future. For now, it was better to quickly build the city of 10,000 worlds. The trading city of 10,000 worlds. That was the name that Feng Zichen had given to the base. Forgive him. Who asked him to be a bad name? However, it did not matter. The name was just a code name as long as it could reflect the function. At worst, when he met a suitable one in the future, he could change it. In an unknown space-time, two vast worlds were floating there quietly. They were the Great Star World and the Black-Yellow Great World, which were also Feng Zichen's spoils of war. The city of 10,000 worlds was a fortress that Feng Zichen used to occupy the Great Thousand Worlds. Since he wanted to build it, the materials used must not be poor. Therefore, Feng Zichen thought about it and felt that these two Great Thousand Worlds were idle. It was better to combine them into one and use them as the foundation of the city of 10,000 worlds. He had already thought about it. He would build the city of 10,000 worlds on the world after the two Great Thousand Worlds merged. Then, every time he conquered a new Great Thousand World, he would move it over and integrate it into this world. In the end, when he completely conquered the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds, he would get a brand new world that merged the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds. This world might not be comparable to the Untainted World, but it was definitely the strongest world under the Untainted World. Even the Heaven Realm could not be compared to it. With such a world and the boundless starry sky, Feng Zichen really had the capital to compete with Tao ancestor Hongjun. The Chaos Demon Gods had already taken the Great Thousand Worlds from the hands of the Way of Heaven. This meant that after Feng Zichen took the Great Thousand Worlds back from the hands of the Chaos Demon Gods, the ownership of the Great Thousand Worlds completely belonged to him. It had nothing to do with the Way of Heaven, unless he took the initiative to give it to the Way of Heaven. But Feng Zichen was not a fool. He had worked so hard to conquer the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds. How could he give it to the Way of Heaven for no reason? Giving it to the Way of Heaven, what was the difference between giving it to Tao ancestor Hongjun? Wasn't that helping the enemy? So, if he could really conquer the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds, it would belong to Feng Zichen alone. With the existence of this world, Feng Zichen had a way out. If he really could not survive in the untainted world, he could just take this world and run away. A top macro world formed by combining the power of the 3,000 great thousand worlds could already have the ability to drift in the chaos outside the world, just like the untainted world. Refine. After arriving at an unknown space-time, Feng Zichen showed a huge Taoist body. He held a world with one hand and slowly refined it. As the name suggested, the Great Star World was a world that leaned towards the starry sky. The black-yellow Great World was the opposite. It was a world that leaned towards the continent. Therefore, it was not difficult to merge these two worlds. As long as the Great Star World was refined into the starry sky and the black-yellow Great World into the earth, they would be a complete macro world. Rumble. In Feng Zichen's hands, the Great Star World slowly turned into the starry sky and the black-yellow Great World into the earth. Then, with Feng Zichen's supreme divine sense, the two worlds slowly merged and gradually formed a vaster new world. It was worth mentioning that under the protection of Feng Zichen, even if heaven and earth changed, these creatures who originally lived in the Great Star World and the black-yellow Great World were not harmed. On the contrary, they gained a lot of benefits. The origin of the newly formed world was undoubtedly much stronger than that of the Great Star World and the black-yellow Great World. The void was more stable and the innate spiritual qi was richer than before. This was undoubtedly a good thing for the creatures inside. As the first creatures born in the new world, they would get a lot of blessings and their future achievements would be greater. Perhaps, they would have the possibility of proving their Tao. From now on, you'll be called the Divine World. After silently looking at the new world for a while, Feng Zichen suddenly gave it a name. Neither Star World nor Black-Yellow Great World were suitable names for the new world. Therefore, Feng Zichen simply gave it a new name. Divine World. This was a kind of ambition of Feng Zichen. As the saying went, Hong Meng had a Tao, and God and Tao were the same. Feng Zichen named the new world the Divine World. His purpose was obvious. He wanted to replace the heaven realm with this world. Moreover, the word God, there was another meaning. The end of martial arts was God. This God was the God of the way of the celestial demon. If the way of the celestial demon wanted to prosper, it must have its own world like the way of immortals. And the divine world was the world Feng Zichen prepared for the way of the celestial demon. After merging the Great Star World and the Black-Yellow Great World, Feng Zichen looked at the new world and felt that something was missing. Then, with a thought, he took out the eyes of the star demon god. Originally, Feng Zichen was going to find an opportunity to refine it into a primordial treasure. But now, there was no need. He had a better choice. Go! With a wave of his sleeve, Feng Zichen threw the eyes of the star demon god into the divine world. Then, one could see that after the eyes of the star demon god entered the divine world, they flew in two directions. Those two places were where the sun star and the moon star of the divine world were located. Rumble. The eyes of the star demon god crashed into the sun star and the moon star of the divine world at an extremely fast speed. Then, the light of the sun star and the moon star became even brighter. The rich power of the sun star and the moon star hung down from these two stars and scattered throughout the entire world. It gave all living beings in the divine world a great baptism. This was. The moon star and the sun star had advanced. The eyes of the star demon god directly merged with these two stars, causing their origin to increase exponentially. Now, the combined power of these two stars was no less than a primordial treasure. For a moment, the void of the divine world became more stable. Between heaven and earth, there was an endless stream of primordial yin and yang qi being born. Go. After the eyes of the star demon god, Feng Zichen took out the origin of the demon god of black-yellow and threw it into the earth. In an instant, the earth of the divine world seemed to have become heavier and heavier. P.S. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. As long as the average subscriptions can increase, I will release more chapters. If others release more chapters, the average subscriptions will increase, but if I release more chapters, the average subscriptions will decrease. I am so scared that I don't dare to release more chapters. Chapter 695. Rumble. The earth was changing, and there was a huge roar. The chi of the earth was surging wildly, making the mountains taller and the rivers wider. Especially under the ground, there were more innate spiritual meridians being born, giving birth to more innate chi for the god realm. Affected by this, the rules of the god realm were more perfect, and the whole world had an obvious improvement. Vaguely, it was beyond the scope of the Great Thousand World. And the creatures living in the god realm, with the improvement of the origin of heaven and earth, also received a lot of benefits. Those with low cultivation levels directly improved by a realm under the skyrocketing innate chi. Those with high cultivation levels saw the possibility of further improvement through the more perfect rules of heaven and earth. Very good. Seeing such a significant change after the god realm devoured the origin of demon god Xianxia, Feng Zichen was very happy. Then he stepped into the god realm, and with his great path, evolved a bright purple star in the vast starry sky. The Emperor's Star. The Master of Stars, the most honorable star. It was also his symbol. Rumble. As Feng Zichen evolved the Emperor's Star in the starry sky of the god realm, the will of the world immediately sensed that the origin of heaven and earth was born from the void and gathered toward the newborn Emperor's Star. Soon, with the support of Feng Zichen and the origin of heaven and earth, the Emperor's Star was completely born. The sun, moon, and stars appeared together, and the world suddenly changed inexplicably. A layer of invisible ripples spread out, gently caressing the bodies of all living beings in the world. At this moment, all living beings knew that the world was different. But they could not tell what the difference was. The changes were wonderful and could not be described in words. Only through a long time, they could slowly understand it. At this point, Feng Zichen's act of creating the god realm came to an end. But next, he was not in a hurry to build the myriad worlds trade city. Instead, he went to the highest peak of the god realm and began to recruit people. For the time being, he was done with the matters at hand. It was time for him to meet those human geniuses that he had sent to the Great Thousand World in the past. Back then, there were quite a number of human geniuses who had entered the 3,000 boundless worlds. Therefore, even though they had entered the Great Wide World at random, each Great Wide World had more or less received a portion of the Great Wide World. The Star Macro World and the Black-Yellow Macro World were no exception. Now, what Feng Zichen wanted to do was to summon the talents of the human clan who had been stranded in the two Great Thousand Worlds. God Realm, Pillar of Heaven's Mountains. Feng Zichen sat on the mountain peak, and an invisible ripple spread out in all directions with him as the center. It didn't take long for the news to spread throughout the entire firmament. Chaotic cloud stream. A figure sitting cross-legged in the depths of the clouds suddenly revealed an excited expression after being swept by the ripple. This aura, I can't be wrong. It must be His Majesty's aura. Did His Majesty come to this world? Astonishment, surprise, nostalgia. All kinds of complicated and contradictory emotions intertwined on the man's face, indicating that he was not calm inside. Then, all these emotions were transformed into a carefree laughter. His Majesty is still here. The human clan is still here. Our human clan did not die in the hands of the demon clan. As he laughed, tears flowed out of his eyes. How could he not cry? Back then, wasn't the reason why they had left the human clan and the primitive world because the human clan was in danger of being exterminated? In order to protect the human clan, the human emperor had no choice but to use his supreme magic to send them to the other world. However, although they had left, the impression that the human clan was about to be exterminated was deeply imprinted in their minds. As a result, the geniuses of the human clan who had come to the Great Thousand Worlds were all worried about the situation of the human clan at all times. For this reason, they all cultivated desperately and didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. This was because whenever they were free, the scene of the human clan being slaughtered by the demon clan would automatically appear in their minds, causing them to be unable to sleep at night. The hatred for the demon clan and the worry for their compatriots had all turned into motivation for these human geniuses, forcing them to work hard in their cultivation in order to obtain enough strength to take revenge as soon as possible. With hatred in their hearts, their progress was naturally extremely fast. It didn't take many years for these human geniuses to step into the Xianxian realm one after another. However, in the Great Thousand Worlds, there were innate flaws that made their path to the Tao extremely difficult. Almost all of them were stuck in the perfected Xianxian realm. Their cultivation could not break through for a long time, and their revenge was even more distant. Because of this, these human geniuses were almost in despair. However, at this moment Feng Zichen came. To these human geniuses, this was no different from a bolt out of the blue. Then a series of ecstasy followed. From the arrival of Feng Zichen, they thought of many things. The human emperor was fine. Didn't that mean that the human clan was fine too? After understanding this, the human race's sky prides were naturally overjoyed. Those who had never experienced the destruction of their country and family would not understand that feeling. The heavens had blessed the human clan. They had not been destroyed by the demon clan. Boom! A powerful wave was emitted from that person's body, dispersing the surrounding clouds and mist. Then he soared into the sky and flew in the direction of Tianzhu Mountain. How could he not go when the human emperor had issued an edict? At the same time, in a small city in the eastern border, a middle-aged man who was talking to a friend suddenly paused. Then tears fell from his eyes. "Yu Ming, what's wrong with you?" His friend, who was beside him, saw this scene and hurriedly asked with concern. This was the border of the former Xuanhuan Great World, and it was also the front line against the innate realm ferocious beasts. That's right, with the arrival of the Chaos Demon God, a disaster of innate realm ferocious beasts also arose in the Great Thousand Worlds. In order to protect their world, those innate god fiends spontaneously gathered together to fight off the innate realm ferocious beasts and built a line of defense in their birthplace. This human genius named Yu Ming was one of the god fiends who was stationed here. He said that it was to protect this world. Perhaps that was true. However, the reason why Yu Ming was stationed here was more to increase his strength. After all, fighting, especially a life-and-death battle, was the fastest way to improve one's strength. "Yu Ming, what's wrong with you? Are you cursed?" Seeing that Yu Ming did not answer, his friend became even more worried and even had a bad guess. "I'm fine." At this moment, Yu Ming came back to his senses and said to his friends apologetically, "My friends, I have something to do. Yu Ming has to leave for a while. Let's meet again if fate wills it." Without waiting for anyone to reply, Yu Ming's figure disappeared on the spot. As one of the few spiritual lands in the original Star Great World, the Xianling Valley was home to a powerful family called the Feng family. At this moment, Feng Hua, the ancestor of the Feng family, who was rumored to have died long ago, suddenly appeared and looked into the distance with excitement. Such a scene, it happened in many places in the realm of the gods. Jing Tai of the human clan. Feng Hua of the human clan. Yu Ming of the human clan. Greetings, Your Majesty. 13 At the foot of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain, a total of 13 figures rushed over and bowed respectfully to Feng Zichen. "Everyone, it's been a long time." Reaching out, Feng Zichen brought them to the top of the mountain. "Your Majesty, how is the human clan?" As soon as they saw Feng Zichen, the 13 human geniuses asked excitedly and anxiously. Although they had already guessed in their hearts, before they received confirmation from Feng Zichen, they could not help but feel a little nervous, afraid that they had guessed wrongly. "The human clan is fine. I'm sorry for worrying you." Knowing their worries, Feng Zichen projected everything that had happened to the human clan after they left into their hearts. For a moment, everyone could not help but sigh. "I'm relieved to see that all of you are fine. It's been hard on you all these years." After everyone calmed down, Feng Zichen said, 13 people. This number was still somewhat beyond his expectations. Although he did not know how many geniuses of the human clan were stranded in these two worlds back then, he guessed that there would not be more than 20 of them. After so many years, there were still 13 people who survived and were doing well. Obviously, they had suffered a lot. The amount of effort that had to be put into leaving one's hometown and building such a huge foundation was definitely beyond imagination. For the human clan, we don't suffer. It's a pity for those brothers who have fallen." As they spoke, their tones suddenly became gloomy. They were all out to make a living. How could they not die? 9 people came to the Great Star World and the Black-Yellow Great World, a total of 18 people. Now, only 13 people were here. The 5 people who did not come were naturally dead. Although the dead are gone, the human clan will not forget them. Their names will be left in the Imperial Ancestral Temple. After experiencing many life and death experiences, Feng Zichen was a little indifferent to it. Therefore, he did not feel much about it, but he still comforted them. Next, after learning about their recent situation, Feng Zichen began to talk about business. "Everyone, I called you here today because I need your help." After pondering for a moment, Feng Zichen said slowly, "Your Majesty, what can we do for you?" Hearing that Feng Zichen needed their help, everyone hurriedly asked. It was a great honor for them to be able to help the human emperor. "You have seen the changes in this world. The Star Demon God and the Black-Yellow Demon God have been killed by me. The integration of the 2 worlds was also facilitated by me. That is to say, this world belongs to the human clan. Therefore, I want you to preach in this world. Teach the Tao of gods and demons and martial arts to the innate gods and demons here, as well as all living beings. At the same time, in the process of preaching, you have to spread your faith for me and help me collect incense and willpower. In addition, I do not want to see any traces of the immortal Tao of the celestial sect in this world. So, you understand what I mean, right?" Feng Zichen's majestic voice came from the throne. "Yes, Your Majesty. We understand." Yu Ming and the others replied excitedly. Just now, they had been thinking about the safety of the human clan and neglected the changes in this world. Now that they thought about it, weren't the changes in this world related to the human emperor? Otherwise, why would the world have undergone such drastic changes when the human emperor had just arrived? Everything was because of the human emperor. Moreover, when they thought that such a powerful chaos demon god had been killed by the human emperor, they were even more excited. With such a powerful human emperor, why would the human clan worry about not prospering? The great joy that surged in their hearts even diluted the sorrow that they felt. "Your Majesty, we are leaving." After bowing respectfully to Feng Zichen, Yu Ming and the others left. "Go ahead." In this regard, Feng Zichen nodded. He was not worried about their safety and did not give them any life-saving means. Because there was no need. As the lord of this world, Feng Zichen's protection was their best weapon. As long as Feng Zichen did not want them to die, then in this world, no one could hurt them. The ability of the Lord of the Realm was far beyond the imagination of the world. Since this world had been regarded by Feng Zichen as the headquarters of the heavenly realm, then the mainstream of this world should naturally be the path of the celestial demon and martial arts. Other than that, other cultivation paths should not exist. At the very least, before the path of the celestial demon and martial arts dominated the entire world, other cultivation paths should not appear. The purpose of collecting incense and willpower was to prepare for the construction of the Myriad Worlds trading city. The power of incense and willpower was one of the most wonderful treasures in the world. The Myriad Worlds trading city built with it would definitely satisfy all of Feng Zichen's conditions. As for why he let Yu Ming and the others preach? Firstly, they were the only people Feng Zichen could trust in this world. Secondly, Yu Ming and the others were ancient humans, and they cultivated the most orthodox path of the celestial demon. It was most suitable for them to preach. As for martial arts, that was even simpler. Those who cultivated martial arts, they might not know the path of the celestial demon. But those who cultivated the path of the celestial demon were definitely the top existences in martial arts. After Yu Ming and the others left, Feng Zichen did not stay idle. He took out the skeleton of the dark yellow demon. To refine the Myriad Worlds trading city, incense and willpower alone were not enough. It could only be used as a framework. It still needed a core. And this core would determine the future achievements of the Myriad Worlds trading city. Feng Zichen thought about it and felt that in his hands, Only the skeleton of the dark yellow demon was the most suitable to become the core of the myriad worlds trading city. First of all, it was precious enough. It was the embryo to refine an innate treasure. Secondly, the skeleton of the dark yellow demon was stained with a trace of the aura of the Great Path. It was of extremely high quality and had infinite possibilities. Finally, it was the most precious treasure that Feng Zichen could take out at the moment. Other than it, there was no other choice. Rumble. The turbulent flame of chaos appeared in Feng Zichen's hand and burned toward the skeleton of the dark yellow demon. Boom! The flame exploded and completely drowned the skeleton of the dark yellow demon, wanting to burn it to ashes. However, it was unknown whether it was because Feng Zichen was too weak that the power of the flame of chaos was not enough, or it was because the skeleton of the dark yellow demon was too hard. In short, the flame of chaos burned for a long time before the skeleton of the dark yellow demon showed signs of melting. But he did not know how long it would take for him to completely refine it. How could Feng Zichen have the patience to wait? At this time, he was extremely regretful that he did not borrow the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth from Nuwa before coming here. If he had the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth at this time, it would not be so difficult to refine the skeleton of the dark yellow demon. However, it was too late to say anything now. He had to think of a way to refine the skeleton of the dark yellow demon first. Otherwise, when the incense and willpower gathered, the core of his infinite realms trading city had not been completed. That would be awkward. Go! Gritting his teeth, Feng Zichen forced out a drop of essence blood and merged it with the flame of chaos. Boom! In an instant, the flame of chaos burned even more fiercely. The terrifying heat spread and even the rules of heaven and earth were ignited. Under this power, the skeleton of the dark yellow demon finally moved and melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Feng Zichen saw this, he could not care less about his blood essence. He waved his hands continuously, carving countless mysterious runes in the void and branding them on the dark yellow demon deity's skeleton that was constantly melting. In this way, time passed slowly. Very soon, 1,000 years had passed. Condense! As Feng Zichen's voice fell, a majestic emperor's throne slowly appeared. This emperor's throne was called the Emperor's Throne of the Myriad Realms. As the name suggested, this was the core that Feng Zichen built for the Infinite Realms trading city. Controlling it was equivalent to controlling the entire Infinite Realms trading city. As for the level of this treasure, it was hard to say. Because it was only a half-finished product, it would take a long process of evolution to be completed. To be honest, this treasure could only be regarded as the embryo of a connate cardinal treasure. Even with the Infinite Realms trading city's main body that was about to be built, it was only a half-finished product. Feng Zichen looked up. A lot of incense and willpower had gathered around him. It had been 1,000 years. Yu Ming and the others should have some results. Otherwise, Feng Zichen would really wonder how they had survived until now. Refine. Reaching out, Feng Zichen gathered all the incense and willpower together and slowly refined it. With the Emperor's throne as the center, he built the prototype of a city. The Infinite Realms trading city did not need to be very majestic. It just needed to look like a city. The plans inside would be freely developed by those who were chosen in the future. After deciding on the appearance of the Infinite Realms trading city, Feng Zichen then set up a formation to refine the incense and willpower to strengthen the origin of the Infinite Realms trading city. After doing all this, Feng Zichen plucked a lot of leaves from the world tree. If the Infinite Realms trading city was to be truly established, it had to guide the living beings of the Infinite Realms. However, how could crossing realms, especially for cultivators with low cultivation, be a simple matter? At this time, the world tree was needed. As a chaos spirit root, the world tree was full of treasures. Its leaves not only contained rich vitality, but also had the ability to cross realms. Chapter 696. For this reason, treasures made from the leaves of the world tree would definitely have the ability to cross realms. Perhaps the leaves of the world tree alone were not enough. However, with the guidance of the 10,000 Realms trading city, The combination of the two could definitely allow the chosen person to cross realms at will. Refine. With a thought, various treasures containing the power of the void flew out of Feng Zichen's hands and fell into the Chaos Dao fire. The Chaos Dao fire was so powerful that it could easily refine the skeleton of the dark yellow demon god, let alone these treasures that were far inferior to it. Therefore, as soon as the void attribute natural treasures fell into the primal chaos flames, they were all refined. World Tree. At this moment, Feng Zichen suddenly reached out and grabbed a large leaf from the World Tree's branch. A large number of leaves fluttered down and fell into the refined heavenly material earthly treasure. Whoosh! Mysterious runes flew out of Feng Zichen's hands. There were so many of them that they quickly flooded the void. This mysterious phenomenon lasted for 100 years before it slowly faded away. When everything calmed down, both the leaf of the Tree of World and the refined treasure of heaven and earth were nowhere to be seen. In their place were mysterious jade talismans floating in the void. This item was called the 10,000 Realms Talisman. It was the token of the 10,000 Realms trading city and also the proof of entry. With this talisman, no matter where one was, one could cross endless time and space and enter the 10,000 Realms trading city with a thought. Go. With a thought, Feng Zichen grabbed the 10,000 Realms Talisman and scattered it into the countless small and medium worlds in the Realm Sea. Do you want to understand the meaning of life? Do you want to truly live? No. I got the script wrong. Do you want treasures? Do you want the techniques of divine arts practitioners? Do you want to live forever with the world? Do you want to rapidly improve your strength? Come to the 10,000 Realms trading city. Everything you want is here. It can also fulfill all your wishes. As the 10,000 Realms Talisman fell, there were tempting voices. With that, the matter of the 10,000 Worlds trading city has come to an end. Feng Zichen nodded in satisfaction as he watched the myriad world talismans randomly fall into different worlds. He did not think that his plan would fail because he had given too much. At the same time, no one could resist the temptation of increasing their strength. I just don't know how long it will take for the 10,000 Worlds trading city to develop. Looking at it, Feng Zichen couldn't help but worry. He was worried that the development of the 10,000 Realms trading city was too slow, so much so that it had not reached the level of dominating the 10,000 realms when the saints set their sights on the 3,000 realms. This would undoubtedly put him in a passive position. But soon after, Feng Zichen let go of this worry. That was because he suddenly realized that the flow of time in the upper-class world was different from that in the primordial world. It had been said a long time ago that the flow of time in the primordial world increased layer by layer with the heaven realm as the center. This meant that the further one was from the heaven realm, the faster the flow of time would be. And how far was the upper-class world from the heaven realm? It was not that a day had passed in the heaven realm, but 1,000 years had passed here. With such a huge difference in the flow of time, wouldn't it give the 10,000 realms trading city sufficient time to develop? If this was the case, the 10,000 realms trading city could be overtaken by others. Then it could only be said that Feng Zichen was too useless. However, he couldn't say that. What if an accident happened? Therefore, he had to be prepared for both sides of the coin to have an extra layer of insurance. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen's heart stirred. He took out a part of the 10,000 Realms Talisman and sent it to the distant end of time and space, the mysterious world that was isolated from everything. Without a doubt, it was the little desolate world. This was Feng Zichen's greatest trump card and the strongest foundation of the human clan. At the same time, this place was also the headquarters of the path of gods and demons. The humans here all cultivated the most orthodox path of gods and demons. Although this was only a branch of the human clan, because the humans here all cultivated the path of gods and demons, they might not be much weaker than the humans in the primordial world. This place could be said to be filled with experts. Just Daoyuo Jingxian alone, there were no less than 100 of them. Primordial Unity Golden Immortals were everywhere. Golden Immortals and Mystic Immortals were even more numerous. Moreover, there were no mortals here. Because they all cultivated the path of gods and demons, the bloodline of the humans here had already undergone an astonishing transformation. As a result, the weakest of the humans here were born in the Khanate realm. The strongest were even comparable to heaven immortals and mystic immortals. They were not inferior to some Khanate godfiends. In fact, because the seal set up by the demon clan was too strong, the heavenly Tao had actually completely forgotten about this place. As a result, the cultivation environment here was still in the ancient times. In other words, it was easier to attain the Tao of Daluo Jingxian here than in the primordial world. Perhaps even Di Jun didn't expect that the peerless seal he set up to completely cut off the hope of the human clan would gradually evolve into the human clan's biggest protective umbrella with the changes of heaven and earth. It preserved an incomparably precious cultivation holy land for the human clan. Perhaps, when Di Jun heard the news, he would be so angry that he would come over. All kinds of reasons combined made the human clan here abnormally powerful. If the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors were excluded, the strength of the human clan in the primordial world might not be much stronger than the human clan here. Originally, Feng Zichen regarded the human clan in the little desolate world as his biggest trump card. He wouldn't use it easily. Fortunately, at the critical moment, he would ruthlessly trick the enemy. But now, in order to dominate the 3,000 great worlds, he had no choice but to reveal this trump card in advance. Feng Zichen wanted to transfer all the Daluo Jingxian in the little desolate world over and let them guard the myriad worlds trading city. This way, on the one hand, they could maintain the order of the myriad worlds trading city. On the other hand, it could also serve as a training ground for them. In the end, the little desolate world was still too small. Hundreds of Daluo Jingxian were already the limit it could accommodate. If they continued to stay in the little desolate world, not only would it delay their progress, it would also affect the birth of a new generation of experts. Therefore, Feng Zichen was more straightforward. He transferred all the Daluo Jingxian in the little desolate world out at once and let them come to the Realm Sea to develop. At the same time, it would also make room for the middle-level cultivators in the little desolate world so that they could obtain the capital to take a step forward. Rumble. Inexplicably, an extremely oppressive aura suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. The void also began to tremble and then shattered with a loud bang. Then, hundreds of terrifying figures seemed to walk over from the end of the long river of time and space. They carried an unparalleled aura and shattered the void, descending into this world with an extremely powerful posture. Good. Very good. Seeing that everyone is so elegant, Zichen is relieved. When he suddenly saw everyone, even Feng Zichen could not hide the excitement in his heart. Especially when he saw that they were as elegant as before, Feng Zichen was even more excited. Countless years of waiting did not cause them to lose their fighting spirit. Instead, it made them even stronger. From their posture, it could be seen that they were always preparing for the day when they would counterattack the desolate world. Moreover, unlike the human race in the desolate world, the human race in the little desolate world was undoubtedly closer to Feng Zichen. This was because as time passed, the human race in the desolate world no longer had much to do with Feng Zichen except that they were also part of the human race. However, the little desolate world was different. Not only were there Feng Zichen's old friends here, but there were also his bloodline clansmen and elders. Most of the direct descendants of the ancient Feng tribe and the 9 kings of the human race were in the little desolate world. These were all people who were close to Feng Zichen. How could Feng Zichen not be excited when he suddenly saw them? He did not cultivate the heartless Tao. Greetings, Your Majesty, from the human race. The middle-aged man in the lead, who was also the leader of the 9 kings of the ancient times and the first generation of the human race Yuyu, stepped forward and bowed to Feng Zichen. Elder Yuyu, it's been a long time. Seeing that Yuyu was about to bow down, Feng Zichen quickly stepped forward and helped him up. Even though he was already the Daluo Jingxian of the primordial chaos, Yuyu was a figure of the same generation as Suiren. He was also an elder of the human race who had watched Feng Zichen grow up. When he was young, he had taken good care of him. In front of such a figure, how could Feng Zichen calmly accept his bow? After greeting everyone, Feng Zichen began to talk about business with them. In fact, it was nothing. He just told them how to operate the Myriad World Trading City and how to refine the Boundless World. Myriad World Trading City? What an amazing idea! Your Majesty is still as generous as ever. After hearing Feng Zichen's plan, Youyu exclaimed in shock. Beside him, the rest of the human kings also nodded in agreement. After that, they left the time for everyone to discuss. Feng Zichen did not interfere too much. They were all old friends and had already formed a tacit understanding. After understanding Feng Zichen's idea, they naturally knew what to do next. After 10,000 years, when the Myriad World Trading City officially began to operate, Feng Zichen decided to leave. After all, there were still many things waiting for him to deal with in the primordial world. In addition, he had already stayed in the Realm Sea for a long time. If he did not show up in the primordial world for a long time, it was inevitable that there would be some accidents. Therefore, it was time for him to leave. He had no choice but to leave. Staying here had nothing to do with him. If there were any problems, Youyu and the others could solve them by themselves for a while. There was no need to trouble him. If Feng Zichen continued to stay here, he would only act as a mascot. Since that was the case, he might as well leave. The humans of the primordial world were still waiting for him. He could be completely at ease if he left this place to Youyu and the others. He did as he thought. Feng Zichen immediately prepared to leave. However, before he left, he seemed to have thought of something and handed the broken chaos spiritual treasure, the Bell of Heaven and Earth, to Youyu. It could be considered as giving them some means to protect themselves. After all, this was the Realm Sea. There were chaos demon gods sleeping everywhere. What if one day, a chaos demon god suddenly woke up and discovered the Myriad World Trading City? With the strength of Youyu and the others, they definitely could not stop the chaos demon god. But with the chaos spiritual treasure, the Bell of Heaven and Earth, it was different. Although they still could not stop the attack of the chaos demon god, the Bell of Heaven and Earth and the Myriad World Trading City were enough to let Youyu and the others hold on until Feng Zichen came to save the situation. There was one thing that had to be said. As the oldest human race and the first existence to come into contact with the path of gods and demons, Youyu's strength was not as simple as Daluo Jingxian. He was a sage-to-be. He was also the second existence of the human race, other than Feng Zichen, who relied on his own efforts to cultivate to the sage-to-be realm. This point specifically referred to the path of gods and demons. This was also the reason why Feng Zichen handed the Bell of Heaven and Earth to Youyu. Although they had a good relationship, it was obviously not the time to use this relationship here. It was because Youyu was strong enough that Feng Zichen was assured to hand the Bell of Heaven and Earth to him. The chaos spiritual treasure naturally had to be handed over to the strongest person. This way, it would be able to exert the greatest effect. As for why Feng Zichen did not move the chaos array over, it was not that he was unwilling, but that he could not. Did you think that Feng Zichen did not know that as long as the chaos array was moved over, the 10,000 Realms Trading City would be impregnable? Of course he knew. But he could not move the chaos array. Because the chaos array was one of the foundations of the mini-desolate world. Once he moved the chaos array, the mini-desolate world would be half destroyed. Did he really think that the seal set up by the demon race was to protect the human race? They existed for the sake of destroying the human race. If it was not for the innate star tree and the protection of the chaos array, the mini-desolate world would have been destroyed by the demon race's seal because of the depletion of spiritual energy and the decline of the rules. It was because of this that the chaos array could not be moved. Once the chaos array was moved, the power of the innate star tree alone would definitely not be able to withstand the suppression of the demon race's seal. The mini-desolate world would also slowly decline because of this. Such an ending. Naturally, it was not what Feng Zichen wanted to see. If such a good cultivation holy land like the mini-desolate world was destroyed, it would be difficult to find an identical one. Therefore, the chaos array could not be moved. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen left the Realm Sea and returned to the chaos world after confirming that he did not miss anything. However, although he had left, the plan of the Myriad Realms trading city to invade the upper-class world had already been launched. Although there were no great results yet, it would not be long before the rest of the small and medium-sized worlds in the Realm Sea, except for the 3,000 upper-class worlds, would be under Feng Zichen's control. Thinking about it this way, this could be considered an alternative strategy of surrounding the city with the countryside. This time, Feng Zichen was full of confidence in his plan to invade the 3,000 upper-class worlds. He felt that it might be unrealistic to take down all the 3,000 upper-class worlds in one go, but it was more than enough to take down half of them. After all, that was 2 innate treasures and hundreds of Daluo Jingxian. This force, not to mention the Realm Sea, even in the Chaos world where there were many powerful figures, it was a powerful force that could not be ignored. What was the situation in the Realm Sea now? Feng Zichen made a rough calculation. Excluding the Chaos Demon God, there were no more than 500 Daluo Jingxian in the entire Realm Sea. 500 Daluo Jingxian seemed to be a lot, but in fact, the 500 Daluo Jingxian were distributed in the 3,000 upper-class worlds. According to this calculation, there was only 1 Daluo Jingxian born in 5 or 6 upper-class worlds. Was this still a lot? The hundreds of Daluo Jingxian of the human clan were gathered together. One was scattered, and the other was gathered. The difference was clear at a glance. Perhaps, in the past, the number of Daluo Jingxian in the Realm Sea would definitely exceed 500 or even more. But after the Chaos Demon God came to the Realm Sea, there were only 500 Daluo Jingxian left in the Realm Sea. As for the reason, it was very simple. They were swallowed by the Chaos Demon God. If the Chaos Demon God wanted to recover his strength, how much power would he need? And in their eyes, the Daluo Jingxian happened to be the best tonic. If they were swallowed, who knew how many years of hard work would be saved? In this way, how could the Chaos Demon God not be tempted? Therefore, this caused the Daluo Jingxian in the Realm Sea to be so rare. As for the 500 Daluo Jingxian, how could they survive? As for Feng Zichen, he had no idea. He could only praise them for their means. With the strength of the Daluo Jingxian, they could survive in the hands of the Chaos Demon God. No matter what method they used, it was worthy of admiration. However, although Feng Zichen's plan was perfect, it was not without flaws. If the saint noticed the Realm Sea in advance, then his plan could be said to be half-wasted. Therefore, Feng Zichen hurriedly ran back to the primordial world. He wanted to find something for the saint to do so that he could focus all his energy on the primordial world and have no time to care about things outside the world, so as to buy time for the Yu family to develop. In short, it was just one sentence. The purpose of Feng Zichen's return this time was to specially cause destruction. Whatever the saint agreed with, he would oppose. Whatever the saint wanted to do, he would destroy. He would definitely make the saint so anxious that he would have no extra energy to do other things. The later the saint noticed the 3,000 great worlds, the more benefits Feng Zichen would get. And this, in the future, would be turned into the capital to deal with the heavenly Tao. After passing through the world tree and the sea of laws, Feng Zichen returned to the boundless starry sky. Coincidentally, at this time, in the primordial world, there was a major event related to the human race. Xia Qi, who was De Yu's son, defeated Bo Yi, the successor that De Yu had arranged in advance, and became the new human emperor of the human race. Long before the 9 provinces barrier was established, De Yu had a premonition that this time, he was in danger. Therefore, on the eve of the 9 cauldrons establishment, De Yu summoned the elders of the human race and the leaders of the major tribes. Under their witness, he made Bo Yi the successor to prevent the human race from falling into a civil war because of the struggle for power after he had an accident. De Yu's arrangement was quite good, but he still underestimated his son's ambition. P.S. It will be published tomorrow. So tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, I plan to release more chapters every day. After that, I will restore 5,000 words per chapter. Of course, if I achieve a high-quality achievement during this period, I will continue to release more chapters every day, at least for a week. Brothers, I am now at 2,820 subscriptions, only 180 subscriptions away from high quality. Actually, it is not much. As for those brothers who read the pirated version, each of them can come and subscribe to more than 10 chapters. So, please, I beg you, give the lazy worm some support. I will kowtow to you. Pa. Chapter 697. Not to mention anything else, just Xianxia alone. It was undeniable that he was a rare prodigy of the human race. Even compared to you the Great back then, he was not the slightest bit inferior. It could be said that Xianxia, who had a noble background and unparalleled talent, was destined to be extraordinary from the moment he was born. Think about it, how could a person like him be willing to submit to others? Especially a person who was not as good as him? So, Xianxia rebelled. It became inevitable. Bo-yi was indeed very outstanding. Otherwise, you the Great would not have chosen him as his successor. But there was no doubt that Xianxia was undoubtedly more outstanding. Because he defeated Bo-yi. Under the situation where Bo-yi had already become the ruler of the human race, Xianxia still defeated him. Just this point alone was enough to prove Xianxia's excellence. At the very least, he was more outstanding than Bo-yi. As for how Xianxia won, and how Bo-yi lost, that was not important. A loss was a loss. His skills were inferior. How could there be so many reasons? As the human emperor, he could not be invincible in the primordial world, but he should at least be invincible in the human race. But Bo-yi did not do it. Then he was overthrown by Xianxia, and there was nothing to say. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. Since ancient times, it had been like this. Bo-yi lost, then Xianxia could replace him. After Xianxia succeeded the throne, he carried out a bold and decisive reform of the human race. Among them, the most important thing was that he established the inheritance system. He openly destroyed the inherent abdication system of the human race and changed it to a hereditary system. He also established the first dynasty of the human race, Xia. At this point, the civilization of the human race had made a leap, upgrading from the tribal era to the feudal era. And for all of this, Feng Zichen on the Emperor's Star had always been watching coldly from the sidelines. He had no intention of interfering in this matter. Firstly, Xianxia relied on his own strength to defeat Bo-yi, so he had no suitable reason to interfere in this matter. Secondly, the appearance of a complete and unified dynasty was inevitable for the development of the human race. Even if Xianxia did not establish the Xia dynasty, there would be other Qis who would establish other complete and unified dynasties. This was because the emergence of a complete and unified dynasty would be beneficial to the gathering of the fortune of the human race. It would also give birth to the powerful force of the dragon Qi of the people Dao. Actually, a complete dynasty had been established in the human race since the ancient times. However, it wasn't called a dynasty at that time. It was called the Imperial Court, the Human Imperial Court. It was the Human Dao Imperial Court that was established by Feng Zichen and gathered the strength of the entire human race. At the same time, it was also the pinnacle of the ancient human race. Unfortunately, the Imperial Court did not last long before it was destroyed by the demon race. The history of the Human Dao Imperial Court was also completely buried. As a result, most humans didn't know of the existence of the Imperial Court of Human Dao. It was precisely because he had once controlled the Imperial Court that Feng Zichen understood better than anyone else what a unified dynasty meant to the human race. Therefore, he chose to watch Xianxia's actions coldly. Open. Although you have fulfilled your dream, have you ever thought of your father? On the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen looked at Xianxia, who was sitting on the Emperor's throne from afar. The expression on his face was unusually complicated. He had once hoped that many people would establish a unified dynasty, but Xianxia was the only one among these people. It was because he was Yu's son. Before Qi established the Xia dynasty, although the chances were slim, the human race still had the chance to become the human emperor. However, after Qi established the Xia dynasty, this slim chance was undoubtedly even slimmer. It could even be said that if nothing unexpected happened, the next human emperor would be born among Xianxia's descendants. Although Xiaqi's actions were beneficial to the development of the human race, at the same time, he also cut off the possibility of the rest of the human race becoming the human emperor, cutting off the future of others. It would definitely involve a great deal of karma. Especially for a race like the human race, which had an unimaginable number of clansmen, the karma involved would undoubtedly be even greater. And such a huge cause and effect would not only involve Xiaqi, but also his family. As his father, Yu the Great would definitely be the first to bear the brunt of it. Although these karma would not hurt Yu the Great would probably never be able to become the 9th great emperor of the human race. If one wanted to become a great emperor, the first thing one had to do was to be selfless. However, Xiaqi had already turned the public world into a family world. How could this be called selfless? If he lost his selflessness, the throne would not be fated with Yu the Great. Forget it, forget it. This is something that I expected. Why should I feel pity about it? Shaking his head, Feng Zichen smiled bitterly. This matter was within his expectations. Therefore, although he felt pity for Yu the Great, he did not take it to heart. Yu the Great's current encounter was not any worse than that of a great emperor. With this thought in mind, Feng Zichen slowly let go of this matter. However, there was one thing that he had to do. That was to recall the human Dao Emperor's seal. In the past, the human race was a public world. Feng Zichen had left the human emperor's seal with the human race as a symbol of the human emperor's authority. It was appropriate. After all, the human emperor was always in rotation. No one could always occupy the human emperor's seal. However, now that the human race had become a family world, it was somewhat inappropriate for him to continue leaving the human emperor's seal with the human race. How should he put it? Since Xiaqi could turn the world into his family, he might be able to turn the human emperor's seal into his family as well. He had to guard against this. Compared to the supreme authority of the human race, even if the human emperor's seal was a Khanate treasure, it was still far inferior. Therefore, why would Xiaqi, who dared to touch the world, not dare to touch the human emperor's seal? Therefore, in order to prevent such an awkward situation from happening, Feng Zichen had better take back the human emperor's seal. In any case, there were no more great emperors born in the human race. There was not much use for the human emperor's seal to remain in the human race. It was just more symbolic than practical. Take it back. With a thought, Feng Zichen thought of taking back the human emperor's seal. At the same time, in the human race's ancestral land, the former human emperor's palace, which was now the center of Great Xia's power. Xiaqi, who was toying with the human emperor's seal, suddenly felt the treasure in his hand tremble for no reason. Immediately after, a tremendous force came, sending the defenseless Xiaqi flying. Then, under Xiaqi's shocked gaze, the human emperor's seal suddenly rose high into the air. In the blink of an eye, it rushed out of the human emperor's palace and flew toward the Gauchan planet in the boundless starry sky. At the same time, the human emperor's palace also began to shake. An unparalleled force surged out and sent Xiaqi flying, who had just been sent flying by the human emperor's seal. This sudden scene completely stupefied Xiaqi. Xiaqi, who had regained his footing, looked at the human emperor's palace that had just sent him flying with a blank expression. He was very confused. Why had this happened? Wasn't he the human emperor? Why had he been abandoned by the human emperor's seal? And why had he been sent flying by the human emperor's palace? Just as Xiaqi was puzzled, the changes in the human emperor's palace did not end. Rumble. With a loud rumble, the human emperor's palace slowly faded away, vanishing before Xiaqi's eyes. This. Seeing this, Xiaqi was even more shocked. Everything that had happened today was completely out of his control. He did not like this very much. Your Majesty, you should leave the ancestral grounds. The capital of the Great Xia should not be built in the ancestral grounds. At the side of the imperial ancestral temple, the Daluo Jingxian, who was guarding the human emperor's palace, walked out from a corner and spoke to Xiaqi. Compared to Xiaqi, the Daluo Jingxian knew much more. Naturally, he could tell what had happened from the human emperor's seal and the human emperor's palace. Whether it was the seal of Empress Lu or the human emperor's palace, they were both related to the sage emperor. Now that they had both acted at the same time, it was clear that the sage emperor had made a move to call back the seal of Empress Lu. As for the disappearance of the human emperor's palace, the reason was even simpler. The sage emperor was unhappy with Xianxia and felt that he did not have the right to control the human emperor's palace. Wasn't it normal for the human emperor's palace to disappear because of this? Understanding this, the Daluo Jingxian had clearly guessed Feng Zichen's thoughts. Therefore, he walked out of his seclusion and explained to Xianxia. Although Xianxia's status was precious, he was still young and had not lived by his father's side when he was young. Therefore, he might not know many secrets of the human emperor's palace. At this time, he needed someone to enlighten him. Senior, you mean? Just now, was it the sage emperor who made a move? But didn't the sage emperor fall? Hearing this, Xianxia's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely understood something and asked the Daluo Jingxian in a low voice. Be careful with your words. What kind of person is the sage emperor? Is his life and death something you and I can guess? Facing Xianxia's question, the human Daluo Jingxian shook his head mysteriously and did not give a clear answer. In this day and age, all the Daluo Jingxian who had lived a little longer knew that the human sage Emperor Zichen was best at faking his death to escape. Falling and whatnot was just to fool some newbies who did not know the ropes. Who would believe this if they had a little background? They would be cheated to death. However, it was not easy to explain this to Xianxia. He could only give him a few hints and let him understand it himself. Thank you for your advice, Senior. Xianxia understands. Taking a deep breath, Xianxia thanked the Daluo Jingxian. Since it was the sage emperor's intention, it was not something he could control. He could only silently obey. However, Xianxia was also a proud person. Since he was forced to leave today, he would definitely find a chance to get back at him in the future. Today, Xianxia's meager achievements are not enough to control the human emperor's palace. But in the future, Xianxia will enter the human emperor's palace with great achievements to prove to the sage emperor and the world that Xianxia is no worse than father. Before leaving, Xianxia secretly clenched his fists and swore loudly. Then, he brought his officials and left the ancestral land of the human race to build another capital city. Ah! Good boy, you're ambitious. Then I'll wait for you to slap my face. On the North Star, Feng Zichen could not help but smile after hearing Xianxia's oath. From this moment on, he was slightly more serious about Xianxia. Perhaps this young man could bring him some surprises. Feng Zichen had always admired people with ambition, because as long as there were more people like this, the human race would become more prosperous. Next, in order to prove to the world that he was no worse than his father, Xianxia began to work hard. He was strict with himself to win the trust of the people. Moreover, in order to show that he was willing to share the joys and sorrows of the human race, Xianxia gave up the luxurious palace and lived in a simple wooden house. His every meal was no longer heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but ordinary grains and miscellaneous grains. Other than worshipping the gods and ancestors, he was not allowed to play music for entertainment. He respected the elderly and loved the children. Whoever had the ability, he would personally invite them to be put in an important position. Whoever knew martial arts, he would let whoever led the troops to war. In short, Xianxia's current performance could be said to be the model of the most virtuous emperor since ancient times. Any emperor in the future who could do 1/10 of his could be said to be wise. The effect of Xianxia's actions could be said to be very good. However, after more than 10 years, his reputation had greatly improved. As a result, everyone forgot that he had snatched the throne from Bo Yi's hands. In this way, after another 100 years, everyone had unanimously agreed that Xianxia was Xia Yu's successor. As for the system of the family world where the father died and the son succeeded, everyone did not reject it anymore. In fact, they even felt that there was nothing wrong with it. After 1,000 years, the standard of living of the human race could be said to have improved by a level compared to before Xianxia succeeded the throne. Tens of thousands of people lived and worked in peace, and all of them praised Xianxia's merit. At this time, Everyone was already used to the rule of the Xia dynasty. At this time, Xiaqi was not far from becoming a qualified human emperor. If he was given a certain amount of time to cultivate, perhaps he really had a chance to enter the ancestral land and take charge of the human emperor's palace again. However, it was probably impossible for him to reach the height of his father, Xiaoyu. Because, in the current primordial world, there was no calamity waiting for Xiaqi to save the world. There were only a few things of great merit, and they had been almost done by the predecessors. There were not many left for the descendants. Therefore, as time passed, merit would become more and more precious. After all, compared to before, the path to obtaining merit was undoubtedly much less. What a good young man! On the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen had been silently watching the development of the human race. When he saw Xiaqi's outstanding performance, he could not help but praise him. Faintly, he was looking forward to Xiaqi's next move. In fact, Feng Zichen was already prepared to crown him in the Imperial Ancestral Temple. But unfortunately, he would never be able to wait until that day. Because Xiaqi was dead. It was very sudden. Without any warning. Xiaqi had fallen. He had fallen on his throne. How could this be? Feng Zichen, who was in seclusion, suddenly felt the luck of the human race shake. Then he received an unbelievable news. Xiaqi had fallen. Who is it? Shocked and furious, Feng Zichen directly released a powerful divine sense and surged toward the primordial world, trying to find the murderer who killed Xiaqi. At the same time, the various holy lands of the primordial world also burst out with powerful divine senses and swept toward the primordial world. That was the saints. Obviously, they were also shocked by Xiaqi's sudden fall. After them were the many powerful beings of the primordial world. Xiaqi's sudden fall had truly shocked the entire primordial world. That was the human emperor. With the protection of the destiny of the people Dao, even a saint would not dare to easily kill him. However, such a figure had suddenly fallen, and he had died without a sound. How terrifying was the person who did it? Moreover, if that person could kill the human emperor without a sound today, it was possible that he could kill them without a sound in the future. Therefore, the cause of Xiaqi's death had to be investigated. Otherwise, those powerful beings would not be able to sleep and eat in peace in the future. Rumble. Feng Zichen's powerful divine sense directly ignored the connate formation that enveloped the entire capital of the Great Xia and arrived at the Great Xia Palace, where Xiaqi had fallen. As far as the eye could see, there was a dignified figure sitting on the high and mighty throne. Unfortunately, although the figure's aura was domineering, there was no sign of life on his body. It was obvious that he had fallen for a long time. The corpse sitting on the throne was none other than Xiaqi. This is. After circling Xiaqi's corpse with his divine sense, Feng Zichen finally discovered the cause of his death. His soul was destroyed, and his true spirit was shattered. In other words, other than a corpse, Xiaqi could not leave anything behind. As for who the murderer was, Feng Zichen already knew at first glance when he saw Xiaqi's corpse. It was the People Dao Dragon Qi. Xiaqi had died from the backlash of the People Dao Dragon Qi. Dragon Qi was a power born from the fusion of the Ziwei star power and the Earth vein energy. As for the People Dao Dragon Qi, it was a powerful power formed from the foundation of Dragon Qi and the wishes of the people. This power had the power to be immune to all magic and destroy all laws. It was the strongest life-saving method that the People Dao gave the human emperor, and it was also his method to control everything. However, because the People Dao Dragon Qi was too strong, this power became a double-edged sword. It could hurt the enemy and also hurt oneself. Perhaps it was because of the curse of the People Dao. The entire primordial world did not allow the existence of an eternal human emperor. The human emperor had been on the throne for too long and had to abdicate. Otherwise, he would suffer the backlash of the People Dao. And the backlash of the People Dao was carried out by relying on the People Dao Dragon Qi. The People Dao Dragon Qi was a magical power. As time passed, it would slowly cause damage to its host. At first, this damage was not obvious. But in the later stages, this damage could take the host's life. Why did the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors only reign for 1,000,000 years, not tens of millions of years or billions of years? It was not that they were unwilling, but they could not. After 1,000,000 years, the People Dao Dragon Qi was so strong that it could threaten their lives. Therefore, they had no choice but to abdicate. Even the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors could not resist the People Dao Dragon Qi, let alone Xia Qi. Although Xia Qi had only been on the throne for less than 10,000 years. But firstly, he did not have as deep a foundation as the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Secondly, he did not have as much merit as the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Thirdly, during the period of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the destiny of the human race was not as strong as it was today. Of course, the most important point was that the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors were all chosen by the heavens and had the karmic position of heaven and earth. Therefore, they were able to receive the protection of the heavenly path. In this way, they were able to last for 1,000,000 years under the backlash of the People Dao Dragon Qi. As for the human emperors after them, they did not receive such good treatment. After the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the human race's emperor's fate had ended. The other human emperors only had the blessing of the human race's fate and the protection of the People Dao, but not the blessing of the heavenly path. Since that was the case, how could they be like the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, holding on to the position of the human emperor for 1,000,000 years? Although Xia Qi was not bad, compared to the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, he was not just a little bit inferior. To be able to hold on to the position of the human emperor for almost 10,000 years was already not bad. If it were anyone else, they would not even be able to hold on for a few thousand years. Of course, Du was an exception, because, to a certain extent, his achievements were not much weaker than the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. In addition, Du had not been on the throne for 1,000,000 years. If you don't have the ability, don't blindly show off like others. This is great, isn't it? Your true spirit was destroyed, your soul dissipated, and you died on your throne. You even let the entire primeval world see you as a joke. After cursing in a low voice, Feng Zichen stepped forward and buried Xia Qi's body. To be honest, after learning the cause of Xia Qi's death, Feng Zichen was more shocked than sad. To be precise, his heart was filled with anger and shock, but not much sadness. This was not because he was too cold, but because in the years after he became the human emperor, Xia Qi had already cultivated to the realm of the Daluo Jingxian. Why did so many people covet the position of the human emperor? Wasn't it because of this? Once he became the human emperor, with the support of the human race's fate, his cultivation could be said to be thousands of miles a day. Cultivating for a year was equivalent to others cultivating for 10,000 years. Look at Xia Qi. Ever since he became the human emperor, in less than 10,000 years, he had advanced from the Tai Jingxian to the realm of the Daluo Jingxian. If this was in the past, how incredible would this be? One had to know that anyone who wanted to cultivate to the realm of the Daluo Jingxian had to go through millions or even tens of millions of years of bitter cultivation. Even someone as strong as Feng Zichen had to painstakingly polish himself for more than 100,000 years in the realm of the Tai Jingxian before he could become the Daluo Jingxian. But now, in less than 10,000 years, Xia Qi had completed the transformation from the Tai Jingxian to the Daluo Jingxian. This could be said to be a myth. From this, it could also be seen that the human race's fate was so strong that they could produce Daluo Jingxian in batches. Of course, Xia Qi's hard work was also part of the reason. If his talent was a little weaker, he would have died from the backlash of the Dragon Qi of the human path before he could succeed in becoming the Daluo Jingxian. However, the mass production of Daluo Jingxian was just a thought. How could it really become a reality? Did he really think that the loopholes of heaven and earth were so easy to exploit? The backlash of the Dragon Qi of the human path was to prevent such a situation from happening. According to Feng Zichen's calculations, after Xia Qi, the human path Dragon Qi would become stronger and stronger. There was probably no magic in the world that could hurt the human emperor. But similarly, as the human path Dragon Qi became stronger and stronger, the human emperor's time on the throne would become shorter and shorter. If it really evolved to the end, the human emperor would not be able to cultivate to the realm of the Daluo Jingxian. Even cultivation would become a problem. In fact, if the human emperor did not abdicate in time, Xiaqi's fate would be a lesson to him. Since Xiaqi had become a golden immortal of the great overarching heaven, he was an immortal existence. Therefore, Xiaqi's fall this time was just a long slumber. Moreover, his physical body was still there and had not suffered any damage. If Feng Zichen used the blood altar, it would not be long before he could gather the true spirit and soul of Xiaqi and revive him. However, the current Feng Zichen was clearly not in the mood to use the blood altar for Xiaqi. He was angry in his heart. He was angry that Xiaqi had overestimated himself. The human path dragon qi was in his body. Therefore, he did not know whether he could withstand the backlash of the human path dragon qi. Since his body could not withstand it, he should have abdicated the position of the human emperor as soon as possible to save his own life. He should not have chosen to grit his teeth and endure it, resulting in his true spirit being destroyed and his soul dispersing under the backlash of the human path dragon qi. It could be said that Xiaqi's end was completely self-inflicted. The backlash of the human path dragon qi did not suddenly erupt. Instead, it gradually increased. Therefore, Feng Zichen did not believe that Xiaqi did not notice that something was wrong. But he still died from the backlash of the human path dragon qi. It could only be said that he still chose to forcefully suppress the backlash of the human path dragon qi even though he knew that his body could not withstand it so that he could continue to stay in the position of the human emperor. However, Xiaqi had clearly underestimated the power of the human path dragon qi. He had also forgotten that the more something was suppressed, the more intense the backlash would be. When the human path dragon qi was suppressed to the limit by Xiaqi, it suddenly erupted. That powerful power destroyed Xiaqi's true spirit and soul in one fell swoop. He did not even have time to react. And this was the real reason why Xiaqi suddenly died. He did not die at the hands of outsiders, but died from the backlash of the human path dragon qi. With anger in his heart, Feng Zichen carried out a simple treatment of Xiaqi's body and sent him to the side of Yu the Great in the Fire Cloud Cave. Let him sleep for a period of time so that he could remember. As for when Xiaqi would return, he would wait for Yu the Great to wake up and do as he wished. After doing all this, Feng Zichen returned to the Emperor's Star with a gloomy face. On the other side of the void, Niuwa also returned to the beautiful Heavenly Wa Palace with a gloomy face. This time, she had lost a lot of face. Feng Zichen could easily see the cause of Xiaqi's death. Naturally, those saints could also easily see it. Therefore, most of them revealed gloating smiles and felt extremely comfortable in their hearts. However, when these laughter fell into the ears of the Niuwa, it made her feel extremely ear-piercing. Her face was a little hot. Xiaqi's death was really a little aggrieved. However, he also proved to the world that the human path dragon qi was powerful. Even a powerful Daluo Jingxian like Xiaqi could be easily killed by the backlash, let alone others. For a moment, everyone was a little more afraid of the human emperor. There was no way not to be afraid. This kind of power, when ruthless, would even kill his own people, let alone outsiders. It would undoubtedly be even more ruthless. No, the power of this human path dragon qi is a little too strong. I have to think of a way to suppress it. Otherwise, the position of the human emperor will not only nurture experts for the human race, but it will also become a death sentence. After returning to the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen's expression immediately changed. The gloominess on his face disappeared without a trace, and it turned into deep worry. The original intention of the position of the human emperor was to nurture an expert who could take charge of the human race in the shortest time possible. But now, with the evolution of the human race, the position of the human emperor gradually lost its original intention. It might be a little exaggerated to say that whoever sat on it would die. However, it was true that it would be more difficult to improve one's strength after sitting on it. In fact, if one was not careful, one's magic power would be slowly wiped out by the human path dragon chi until one became immortal. Such a position of the human emperor was strong, but how could it nurture experts for the human race? No matter how strong the human emperor was, how many years could it exist? What about 100 years later, 1,000 years later, or 10,000 years later? It would not be a piece of yellow soil. It was far from being as practical as a Daluo Jingxian or a quasi-saint. Therefore, after returning to the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen could not help but have the idea of suppressing the human path dragon chi. This could not go on. The position of the human emperor, which could not nurture experts for the human race, was almost half useless. Therefore, the power of the human path dragon chi had to be suppressed. And this point, it might be difficult for others. But for Feng Zichen, it was not particularly difficult, because he was the great of Ziwei, the symbol of all emperors. Many of the characteristics of the human path dragon chi were evolved from the power of the Emperor's Star. Therefore, if Feng Zichen wanted to suppress the human path dragon chi, it would be easier than others. He only needed to use the origin of the Emperor's Star. And if others wanted to weaken the power of the human path dragon chi, there was only one way. That was to weaken the destiny of the human race. The power of the human path dragon chi was linked to the destiny of the human race. The stronger the destiny of the human race, the higher the upper limit of the human path dragon chi. When it was at its strongest, its power was fully unleashed, and even saints had to avoid it. But if the destiny of the human race fell, then not to mention saints, even a powerful person could easily need the human race. Therefore, the best way to weaken the human path dragon chi was to weaken the destiny of the human race. But how could Feng Zichen allow this to happen? The human race could have such a strong destiny today because countless human ancestors had sacrificed their lives in exchange. It could be said that every trace of the human race's destiny contained the blood and tears of the human race. Under such circumstances, anyone who touched the destiny of the human race would be the mortal enemy of the human race. For this reason, Feng Zichen would rather use the origin of the Emperor's Star than weaken the destiny of the human race. Moreover, Feng Zichen's original intention of suppressing the power of the human path dragon chi was to help the human race better cultivate experts. However, only when one's luck was strong could more experts be born. In this way, wouldn't it be putting the cart before the horse to weaken the destiny of the human race in order to suppress the human path dragon chi? Suppress. On the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen silently urged the origin of the Emperor's Star to suppress the human path dragon chi hovering above the imperial capital of the great Xia dynasty. Rumble. Endless Tao light appeared, bursting forth from the collision between the origin of the Emperor's Star and the human path dragon chi. It was incomparably resplendent and spread out in all directions. Soon, it filled the entire wilderness. In an instant, the entire world was no longer visible, filled with endless Tao light, so dazzling that all living beings couldn't open their eyes. This was the radiance of the human path, a power that belonged solely to the human path. At the same time, it was the most important part of the many powers that made up the human path dragon chi. Just by relying on the dragon aura, it was naturally impossible to suppress the primordial world, let alone make the saints temporarily avoid the sharpness. But with the addition of the radiance of the human path, things were different. This was the power of the human path. Once it erupted, who could contend against it unless the heavenly Tao or Dao Dao personally took action? Not even primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. This was why the human path dragon chi was invincible. Damn it. I seem to have underestimated the human path dragon chi. On the Emperor's Star, Feng Zichen's expression was a little ugly. Just as he had said, he had indeed underestimated the power of the human path dragon chi. He had thought that using the origin of the Emperor's Star to suppress the human path dragon chi was a sure thing, but after this exchange, he realized that it was not the case at all. The power of the human path dragon chi was not inferior to the origin of the Emperor's Star at all. When the two exchanged blows, they were actually evenly matched. The endless human path radiance appeared to counter the suppression of the Emperor Star's origin. In other words, the Emperor Star was the birthplace of the heavenly Tao. Its origin was of the same origin as the heavenly Tao and contained a portion of the origin power of the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, as soon as it came into contact with the human path dragon Qi, it would be scattered by the human path radiance. Seeing that things were not going well, Feng Zichen had no choice but to change his strategy. He gave up suppressing the human path dragon Qi and slowly withdrew the Emperor Star's origin. Only then did the human path radiance that filled the entire wilderness slowly fade away. It seems that I can't suppress the human path dragon Qi without using the Emperor Qi. But, narrowing his eyes slightly, Feng Zichen's expression was a little hesitant. Other than the Emperor Star's origin, it was not that he did not have a way to suppress the human path dragon Qi. He could use the Emperor Qi. This was the power born from the fusion of the Hongmeng Qi and the Emperor Star's power. Its essence was extremely high and was close to the power of the Great Tao. It was more than enough to suppress the human path dragon Qi. However, the Emperor Qi of Ziwei could be said to be one of Feng Zichen's greatest trump cards. This was what he had prepared to use to deal with the heavenly Tao, so it was not good to expose it at this time. But, after hesitating for a while, Feng Zichen had a plan in his heart. He realized that he had entered the wrong place earlier. Why did he have to suppress the human path dragon Qi? Couldn't he change his way of thinking? For example, protecting the human emperor. The origin of the Emperor Star might not be able to suppress the human path dragon Qi, but the human path dragon Qi could not do anything to him. Therefore, Feng Zichen decided to change his way of thinking. He did not continue to use the Emperor Star's origin to suppress the human path dragon Qi. Instead, he used the Emperor Star's origin to protect the human emperor from the backlash of the human path dragon Qi. Under the protection of the Emperor Star's origin, the human path dragon Qi would definitely not be able to hurt the human emperor. There was just one thing that needed to be paid special attention to. That was, the human path dragon Qi would become stronger and stronger with the passage of time, but the Emperor Star's origin would not. It would become weaker and weaker with the passage of time. After all, the Emperor Star would not favor a person for no reason, unless that person could do something that was beneficial to the Emperor Star. Only then could they obtain the Emperor Star's favor. To be precise, as the human emperor, the more outstanding his performance, the more the Emperor Star's origin would be obtained. Conversely, it was the same. But no matter what, once the Emperor Star's origin was exhausted, it meant that he should abdicate. Otherwise, the backlash of the human path dragon Qi would cause him to reach the end of his life ahead of time. Go! With a thought, Feng Zichen adjusted the Emperor Star and injected a wisp of the star's origin into the body of Xia Qi's son, the second emperor of the Xia dynasty, Taikong. This wisp of Emperor Star's origin could help him resist the backlash of the human path dragon Qi for 100 years. As for what happened after that, it all depended on his own fortune. If the Xia dynasty flourished in his hands, then Taikong would definitely receive more support from the Emperor Star's origin and be able to resist the backlash of the human path dragon Qi for a longer time. If the Xia dynasty could not flourish in Taikong's hands, or even become weaker, then after 100 years, he would either choose to abdicate or die from the backlash of the human path dragon Qi. Everything depended on Taikong's ability. After doing all this, Feng Zichen no longer paid attention to the human race. The development of the human race had long been on the right track, and there was no need for him to worry too much. Now, he had more important things to do. Feng Zichen did not forget his purpose of returning to the primitive world this time. That was to keep causing trouble for the saints. Moreover, through this period of observation and the information obtained from Xianxia, Feng Zichen could not help but analyze that the three pure ones seemed to be doing something big recently. Didn't you see that they didn't even show their faces much now? In the past, the three pure ones were so high profile. Every tens of thousands of years, they would preach the Tao to show their presence. But now, when Xia Qi died, they showed their faces once. The rest of the time, they lived in seclusion, and there was no news at all. Such an abnormal action clearly indicated that they were planning something big. There was also the two saints who received and guided Xianxia. Their behavior was also wrong. Ever since Haotian returned, the two of them had been holed up in the west and did not come out. This was very wrong. It was hard to say for Saint Xianxia, but in the past, Saint Xianxia wished that he could live in the east so that he could seize all the opportunities to guide away the geniuses of the east and recruit talents for the west. But now, there was no sign of Saint Xianxia in the east. It had been a long time since he had heard that famous saying of the primordial world. Fellow Taoist, you are fated with the west. It was very uncomfortable. As for the conflict between the chaos demon god lineage and the Pangu divine system, that was not a matter. A long time had passed, and the living beings had changed several times. Other than those with great divine abilities, who still remembered these things. Time was the strongest weapon. It was enough to make people forget everything and bury everything. The silence of Xianxia and Xianxia was not without reason. This might also be a big move. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen was energized. He had to destroy it. No matter what the big move of the three pure ones and Xianxia was, he only needed to destroy it. Anyway, their big move would not be a good thing for him. Whatever the enemy wanted to do, he would oppose it all. That would be right. Now, Feng Zichen planned to do so. This should be the earliest bureaucracy in the primordial world. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen could not help but cast his gaze at Kunlun Mountain. If the three pure ones had any plans, Kunlun Mountain was definitely the best choice. After all, that was their birthplace. There must be a backup plan left behind by Pangu that was enough to block all spying. P.S. This is the first time I have posted a 10,000-word chapter. It might also be the last time. Please subscribe. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.